There we go.
All right,
Is-
everybody, welcome to the Good Times Hour.
Well,
It's
unfortunately, our guest, Sam Ference, wasn't able to join us tonight. So instead, MACEMAN came up with this idea. We're just going to interview each
yeah,
other.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it occurred to me that a lot of people might not know you. I mean, a lot of people that are on watching right now are watching on my Facebook, and I've known you for a long, long time, but not all of them have. So, and likewise, like Ryan pointed out today that he's known you forever, but he met me like 2 times 20 years ago, and so there you go. That'll
Who pointed
we'll
that
see
out?
what we can do about shoring up some of y'all's knowledge about both of us, and neither one of us are going to boast each other.
Yeah.
And we're using the How Baby script on my end anyways. We're going to pretty much freestyle this all the way through. So
Yeah,
thanks for joining us and welcome.
This may be a little rough and ragged, but stick with us. You may find something interesting. And I mean, you and I to each other, we are the most interesting people we know. And it's just, we started this without any thought of anything other than just hanging out exactly like this and just, bullshitting and talking about the times, because we've had lots of times. Okay, so let's just first kick it back before we get into you and I. Let's talk about us. I think I remember seeing you. I know I remember seeing you at the Great Lakes Open 1995. You were playing pro that time. I was on the AM side.
No, I was still playing advance in 95.
Okay. So it was only
Yeah.
then, because you were AM1 and I think I was AM2 at the time, but we all
Yeah.
came over after playing at Hudson Mills. We all went over to Kandahar. That was the one year that we had
Dude, yeah,
amazing
Kandahar.
ski hill track. And I remember at the lodge, that's where we had the awards, and that's where everybody, all the people were congregating after round. And I remember seeing you, and I was like, oh my god, that's the Jester guy. I was
Nice.
geeking out about everything. Yeah.
You know what's really cool is and we're going to pay a little more attention to this tonight than we normally do, but Steve Mills and Sue Stevens, just Sissy Sue Stevens, have tuned in to check us out. Since it's cool because they're both from Michigan, although opposite sides of the state, but still it's yeah. So that was amazing. That was 95. I'd already decided I was going to go pro after I played that tournament and the 95 M Worlds. I mean, dude, you went to that too, right? And
yep.
That still stands out as one of the best tournaments. So many memories. I mean, I met Brian McCree there, among other people. I mean, it was epic. Drummond brothers, John Fowler. John Fowler, Linda Fowler. I mean, like huge. I mean, that's such a great spot for a disc golf tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, same kind of phenomenon goes on in Bowling Green. You can get there from 5 hours from those cities, are a lot of big cities. If you drive a 5-hour circle on the map, you draw a lot of big disc golf communities into those circles in either one of those cities. Yeah. And even Detroit or some of like the Twin Cities, the same kind of thing to some degree as well. But it's kind of tough to draw the big ones from out west there because there's nothing out west there. But
so we actually met. The first time we actually talked was 96 at the VPO. Remember that?
Yeah, and you didn't you end up staying at my house?
I was playing. No, not.
Or was that the next year?
That was 97. 96. I remember I was actually. Is the screen being shared?
What's that? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so just want to bring this up. I've shown this photo a couple times, but that's me and Becky. This is at the Friday night doubles at Veterans Park Open, right before like the big AM tournament.
With the Auburn Chain Zombie t-shirt on too.
Right?
That's awesome. I had Chain Zombie putters for a long, long time, man.
Look at that. Look at the frosted tips on this guy here. And he's got the
hairdo. This is when Muller started. Is this when Muller nicknamed you Hairdo, or was it after this?
I think it was after maybe it was, I don't know, Muller.
Come on, Hairdo.
Genesis of his name. but we were, that's
But
where I
Becky
met
Z,
Becky.
I mean, look at that smile. Like you guys,
Yeah,
you've heard us talk about Becky Z
yeah,
in several episodes. I mean, everybody that knew her loved her. And look, I mean, look how happy she is. I mean,
yeah.
she was like
We
that all the time.
we took third that night in doubles, and we had our first cash. There's another photo that's with the two of us there, and the other photo is we're holding up. I don't know, it's like $8 we won each or whatever it was. But we were holding up like we just won the jackpot, you know. But anyways, that's at the top of the mound at Veterans there. What hole was that now?
In the back with the back pavilion.
Yeah,
It's like
the upper one. I guess it was
one
where
and
number one
five,
is. Yeah.
1 and
So
5 take off from up there.
so I was there, we were milling around, and that's when you, I think by that time you were playing pro, but I was still playing am at
Yeah,
that
yeah, for
event.
sure.
And you would, of course, being from out of town, being from Canada, like that's gonna draw attention. Everybody's like, oh, look at this dude, he's an am2 and he came down for this. Who
Right,
who
right, right.
travels? That's when Stokely took notice of me, and he was like, this dude's traveling a touring am2. That's the tournament. And I remember you made some kind of, you're like, you're from Toronto, and then you said something about, you know, bumping, like doing a show in the Maple Leafs Gardens,
Yeah,
and
dude. Yeah,
seeing
fitting in.
paint flakes that were painted over more times than we've been alive,
That's
or
a, I've told that
something like
story
that.
many times, dude. There's some
Yeah,
paint chips in that building that are
yeah,
massive.
that's what it was. So
Like you can look at, well,
that's
and then another thing I noticed there too, like, so I've been hanging lights on pipes for a long, long time. And it's usually scheduled 42-inch pipe, right? And and you see these pipes used for handrails and for all kinds of other, like, I noticed stupid stuff like that, you know. I'm like, oh, look, they used schedule 40 pipe right there. Well, you could tell how much thicker the pipe was because of how many years. I mean, like, dude, it was like 92 or 93-year-old building at the time.
yeah.
And and it had been painted, you know, 70 or 80 times. So, you know, that paint layers up. And yeah, so it was really weird. And then one of our truck drivers hit a pole, and it was much different than, like, it wasn't the first time somebody had done that, but like you could tell the new ones, and you could tell the ones that came from when the building was built, you know. And there was fewer, sometimes significantly fewer of the old ones, but they came and made a report and made a big deal of it, you know. It was,
So that's where we made first encounter, and the relationship has gone on from there, and we've had lots of epic times, and hopefully we can get to a few of those stories along the way, as well as getting to know each person. So do you want to go first, or you want me to go first?
don't matter.
All right, well,
Roll with it.
let's talk about you. You've been playing the game, at least according to the PDGA, longer than me, Baba. Your first event here, I'm looking at this, 1992. Remember that?
No.
Okay, your first event according to the PGA was Circular Skies over Austin. You were playing in recreational, and you took
At Zilker
second.
Park.
What does it say?
I think it was at Zilker.
Circular Skies over Austin, and you took second in AM3 of 16. Mind you,
Nice.
you were
Who took first?
Aaron,
Eric Saylor?
no, Eric Racker.
I don't know.
He doesn't have a PDJ number, so he didn't stick. But in that division, I don't know if how familiar these names
Yeah,
are.
read it. Let's go. Come on.
Richie Klinger,
Don't remember him.
Jim Mazzola,
I remember Jim Mazzola.
Kenny Wines was 9th.
I don't remember him.
Alan Stevens was 8th.
I'm not sure if I remember him.
Michael J. Finnegan was 6th.
Don't remember him.
Brian Luria. I don't know how to pronounce that. Tom Pepsis was 3rd.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so a bunch of nobodies there.
Not saying they're nobodies. I just didn't remember them. Like,
I said it.
yeah,
When the
yeah,
blade comes
yeah.
this way.
So I was just curious because like I remember when you read off that 95 advanced division from Great Lakes Open. You know, it was like that brought back a whole bunch of memories because you know, like,
yeah,
and like
those
Drew
are
Gray.
tops.
You know, like, I mean, obviously it was cool that I got to hang that over Avery's head that I beat him at that event too, because you pointed it out to me. I didn't even know about it, but
Hey,
I
it's
met
up
up with
there in the
Avery last
stats.
year. We talked about a lot of stuff, and I was like, dude, you remember Great Lakes Open 95? And he goes, yeah. And I go, well, I beat you there. It was awesome.
Okay, so your second ever event, again back in 1992. was the Austin Fall Classic, and you won that the field of 13.
In an advance or an AM or something like that. AM2.
AM3, and
Oh, okay.
Sherry Carl was the TD.
Oh yeah. Okay. So that was like I think that took place at Bartholomew and possibly Round Rock.
They show 3 rounds plus a finals, so it's sounds like kind of a big deal.
Interesting. Yeah.
Oh, I just happened to scroll up a little bit and look whose name I get in 11th place at a 27 in AM2, Jerry Gotcher
There you go.
in 1992. So,
I
so
wrote.
but
I
you
went. We went to a lot of tournaments together.
but you okay, you played those first events, but you didn't join the PDJ obviously in your first events because your number's later than mine, and I got mine in June of 1993. So
93.
you were just a
Yeah,
little
I
bit
played.
after.
I was trying to get. I was just like. I just heard about the AM Worlds, and I was kind of ate up about it. I mean, I'm not just AM Worlds, but we were down to Austin probably 3 out of every 6 weekends, and in those other weekends there was something around here maybe, or something north or whatever. But it wasn't unusual at all for us to play 4 out of 6 weekends, through the middle part of the summer when things got moving. But then it's also another thing too that people point out when we interview them. There's a lot of times where there wasn't. It's not like it is now. Like there's 3 or 4 events in every weekend in Texas, and probably in most states. That
Well,
have,
Texas,
if
Texas
you're
is,
willing to drive 3 to 5 hours, you can find another 3 or 4 options probably.
I mean, Texas has always
Mm.
kind of led the way. Everything's bigger in Texas. That's the big metaphor, but they've led the way pretty well consistently in terms of the number of courses in the state, right?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean,
First to
that area
100.
makes a difference. But yeah, they were the first state to 100. I imagine they're probably the first state to 200 as well. But I haven't done. We ran a stamp like that for MACEMAN for 4 or 5 years running, and well, I kind of lost track of that one. I went back to the entertainment business.
All right, so
Or-
you played 3 events that first year of 92. We're not going to dwell every year by year, but just this first year, just the Bears examination. And by the way,
It won't take long to get through my playing career either.
yeah. You are still a current member, so we can see those records. For me, unfortunately, those records are permanently sealed.
Yeah, unless we get some kind of a deal with the PDJ for stats.
So 1992, the Skip Maxwell runs the Veterans Park Open on November 14th, 15th. You play in AM2, and let's just look at some of these names in AM2 here. I see Jerry Gotcher took 4th, Tim Gendel took 6th.
Yeah, remember Timmy.
These are just the names that I remember. There's Glenn Schleicher at 13th, President Jeff Davis at 15th,
Jefferson Davis.
Brian Mace at 19th out of 27.
Yeah, that happens.
That happens.
That was the VPO.
That was the VPO. So that was your
Yeah,
first
that
VPO.
course, man, that course will whip your ass. Not
Were
anymore,
you-
but it used to.
Were you living, like, how long did you live at Seville Court that you were like literally
1 year.
that's block? Oh, okay.
Yeah, like 1 year.
So the 1 year that I feel
Oh,
like I
yeah.
stayed with you was the
Yeah,
year.
well, you stayed there twice though.
I did.
You stayed
Three
there
of them.
kind of at the beginning and then at the end. You came back whenever I moved out.
That's right.
We're telling that story for not tonight for sure.
Oh, the move story. Holy F and G's guy.
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
so-
Oh yeah.
So that's 92. So you play your first events in 92. What's the origin story then? How do you hear about disc golf? What gets the disc golf in your hands?
Okay,
Or
so
Dolphins.
so it goes in 90. I'd been going to junior college and paying my way through that, and because when I decided,
Where? Junior college.
Tarrant County, TCJC, Tarrant County Junior College. I moved down here in '87 and to work for Domino's Pizza for $4.25 an hour. Yep, you heard that right. $4.25 an hour. It was awesome. I stuffed a bunch of crap in the back of a Toyota pickup and headed this way. I got sick and tired of that. I got tired of them hanging the carrot in front of my nose and just like, oh yeah, come on, when are you gonna make this work? And I'm like top 3 running numbers, and there's companies and assistant, and they won't give me a store. So I was like, you know what? This isn't what I came here for. I mean, it is, but what I really wanted to do was get in the entertainment business. And I had 2 friends that were drivers that were girls that I met that worked for me, and we hung out. Like they were my actually three of them, my first three friends. They were all drivers that worked for me, and we would hang out after work. Ended up dating one of them for a little bit, but like I told him, hey, this isn't really what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to get in the entertainment business. And they were like all three going, well, why don't you get into college theater? So next thing you know, they pissed me off one day at Domino's, and I was like, all right, I'm going back to being a driver. And they're like, what do you mean you're going back to be a driver? And I'm like, you guys aren't promoting me, and I don't think you're going to change your mind. And so I'm going to go to school, and then it's a good long story, but I ended up going to TCJC Northwest, and I got in the theater department, was involved with the production of several plays, and
What did
came
you
to
play?
realize
Did you act?
in one, yeah, Tea and Sympathy.
What Tea and Sympathy?
Tea and Sympathy.
Who's that? Who's the author of that?
Oh, dude, I don't know.
Okay. I'm
You're
gonna look
talking,
this up.
this
Keep
is like,
going. Keep going.
yeah,
That's
so this
cool.
is old days. Yeah, this is TCJC Northwest Theater Department. I doubt if there's archives on it, but whatever.
No.
But I was interested in the technical side, but in one of the classes, like one of the classes you took, you had to be in one of the shows, and I was fine with it. We'll talk about the prices right here in a little bit, but that's like, I'm standing on stage there. It's like a day at work, and I had already been on stage enough at that point and I'd heard all this stuff. Just imagine everybody's in their underwear, and I just kind of got focused and never thought about it. But I got to a point where I realized that I really wasn't a theater person in the sense that I was a production person. I started getting gigs already. I met a lady who helped me find my way in with a company that I still do work for to this day. The gig I did in Orlando was for the same company, and first people to ever give me a paycheck, and they were using me as a stagehand. And I was just like, wow, it was like I swam through a funnel, and I was just like, holy cow, there's so many options here. And I just wanted to be there really bad, and wanted to, be successful in it. And so I would just be like, okay, what's next? These guys would give me tasks, and I do them. And it has an effect on it's still being in the entertainment business, there's a lot of micromanagement involved, because you have a certain amount of time to stack all these elements up to make the show by 6 or 7 this evening, and so I've applied it in a lot of different areas in my life, and it's led to some decent success in some areas and some failure in others, but that's part of it. So, but that being said, I decided I was going to stop going to school, or I was going to cut way back. So I just went to night school, and I moved over here to Arlington. And I always took something in college. Every semester I took something that was of interest to me, not necessarily of interest to forwarding my degree plan, because I feel like if you're curious, then you need to check it out, especially when you're young and when it's cheap. And so I always did that every semester. I took something that was of interest, and because another thing too, where else are you going to learn that stuff once you're gone, or once you're off to somewhere else or something else? Going back is always there, but if you're already there, check it out. So I was already into art in a lot of different ways all through school, and I took a sculpture class, and this is one of the greatest stories of my life. I walk into the sculpture class, and they have these shop tables in there, which, if you don't know what I'm talking about, they have 4 lockers underneath them that are back to back, and then there's a big steel table on top of them, and they have them in like wood shop classes and in some sculpture. It's a common table. A lot of people have worked on these in wood shop in high school or something like that. Well, they had them in the sculpture class, and it's a huge lab class, like pottery, and we were sculpting with clay and a few other things. But I walk in and I look at this table, and it's all full of people that are like from 40 to our age. And I'm like, I'm not sitting with them old people. And then I look at this other table, and it was the same thing. I'm like, I'm not sitting with them old people. And I turn to my right, and here's a table with nobody sitting at it, no books on it, nothing. And I was like, this is where I sit. And I went outside, and this was in '90, so that was a long time. I smoked cigarettes back then, so I went outside and smoked a cigarette. I come back in, and there's 3 girls sitting at this table that I chosen, and they were all my age, and they were all good looking. And I was like, holy cow, what luck, And Two of them were Christy, who's still a friend of mine, and another one, Jerry's wife, Marie. Gotcher. Her name was Duto at that time, but they were both sitting at that table, and it didn't take long, and I became friends with both of them, and then we started hanging out, and I think we went to a couple of shows possibly, and next thing you know, me and Gotcher were best buddies, and they're two of my best friends still. And Christy and I aren't as tight as we used to be, but I'm still friends with her, and I still talk with her once or twice a year, and she still is pretty close. Jerry and Marie live out in Michigan. I mean, not in Michigan, in North Carolina. So that's the story about how I got to meet Jerry. Jerry's the one that got me and Gary Bennett and a whole bunch of the rest of us into disc golf. And
So he
Gary,
found out about it first, and was like,
oh
"Oh,
yeah,
dude, you
he
gotta
was
check this
instantly
out."
interested too. He found out about it. I mean, there was a head shop locally that had disc for sale, and I saw that, and I was just like going, whatever. We invented that back in the 70s with the Master Frisbee in
Right?
Hutchinson, Kansas. This is bullshit. And then I went out golfing at Veterans, and I realized just how really bullshit it was.
Well, so there's a very typical thread that, in terms of the origin stories, a lot of people have the similar, very kind of vibe where one of their friends finds out about it and tells them. I mean, it somehow
Oh yeah,
happens
for sure.
where the guy, like Dan Ginley's story of just like hanging drywall and looking out and going, "What the hell are those guys doing over there?" And like going over to the park and finding out. But your story, my story, is the same kind of thing. Someone in our friend group just was like, "You got to check this out." And
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
can you remember that day when, like, now, if you try to date it back, do you remember that exact day?
I don't remember that exact day. I do
Okay.
remember
What year was it?
it was in 91.
Okay.
Yeah, it was in because you said there was a date for like a spring of 92,
June 92.
June 92. Yeah, so that it was for sure, and had to been in 91 because I did Stephanie Mills tour in the fall Christmas time of 92, and I was already playing. I had already played some tournaments at that point. Like I remember like kind of being disappointed that I was going to be gone for a little while and miss out on that, but at the same time I was excited. It was really really awesome to get out on a tour, and really, so I was like, who cares? And when we were home for 10 days, and I told this story to my buddy Scotty, who was out, he works for Taylor Swift right now. And we had lunch yesterday, and I was home for 10 days, and we played golf like every day. And I think this was while Jerry Gosser was still unemployed too, if I'm not mistaken, after he got laid off from Highland. Like he wrote it out, and they extended him, and he wrote it out even further. And so like we definitely played, at least if it wasn't raining, we were out there every day for those 10 days I was home. And I tell you what, I got poison ivy, the worst I've ever had it, while I was home on that trip. And then we started back in Vegas, and dude, I was in rough shape, and we got done with that load in. I went to my boss, and this is hilarious too, but I went to my boss. I was dumping calamine. It was pink, like Pepto-Bismol on towels, on a hand towel, and I was just rubbing it on everywhere and I went to my boss and I said, look, dude, when I think I'm gonna go to the emergency room and get a shot for this poison ivy. And he goes, I don't think you want to do that. And I go, why is that? And he goes, well, you don't have insurance. And I go, what do you mean I don't have insurance? And you can bet I was cussing. So I go, what do you mean? And I lost it. And I was like, dude, all right, that's it, I'm quitting. And he goes, what do you mean you're quitting? And I said, I'm done, dude. I mean, if you guys don't give a shit about me enough to honor the benefits that you said that I got, and blah blah blah, and I'm sure I'm working for less money than everybody else on the tour, no question about it. And I was like, you don't give a shit about me, I'm going home, fuck it, I'm done, excuse my language. But and then he calmed me down, but I was pretty wound up. But dude, I'm gonna tell you what, never in my life have I ever had it. There's two spots that I had it on my body that were horrible, and one of them was the tank, and then the other one was behind my knees. And the problem with it, when you get it behind your knees, is you scratch it at night, and then you move it and you spread it around while you sleep, because it itches, and you know you're not thinking to not scratch it. But yeah, it was horrible, dude. Horrible.
At the risk of prolonging the story any further, was this something you incurred while working or while disc golfing?
Disc golfing, of course.
Okay.
That 10-day break.
So when you went out on early tours, like when you found out about the game and then you started working in the industry,
Oh yeah.
do you remember some of the early places that you played?
Oh,
Like,
for sure. It was,
okay.
and honestly, so I did Benny Hinn for 2 different 3-year periods of my life. I'd do it like 12 times a year. And yeah, you guys can laugh all you want and it's a quack and whatever. And that doesn't, just because I hung lights for him doesn't mean I was, you know, drinking the Benny Hinn Kool-Aid. It was a job. It was a gig. It was, you know, I mean, that was what took me to Toronto the first time. And it took me to a lot of these towns. And the thing was really cool about that gig was we'd always travel on Tuesday, we'd load in on Wednesday, and we'd only work from 8 to 5. And then the boss would take us out for dinner every Wednesday night. And then Thursday morning we come back in for a touch up and make sure that whatever we didn't get done with before we left on Wednesday had to be done. And then Benny would come in and give his, you know, his approval of the room. Like, you know, he'd just have a look around, and like there was, for us, our stuff was all up in the air, so we didn't really ever have to fix anything. On occasion there was, but you know, that was basically, once he gave his approval, we were off till 6 that night. And then it was a babysitting. There was 3 babysitting sessions. Usually one of us would take the morning too. So we'd all have, there'd be 4 of us, we'd each have a babysitting session, and we'd essentially all have a day off, but it was like a half day on Thursday and a half day on Friday. And we'd have to babysit a shift, whether it was Thursday or Friday, and then everybody's back for loadout on Friday night. And we'd, in the beginning, the first 3 years, they didn't fly us home till Sunday. So I was always off on Saturday in another town. And that's when I really got to get out and golf. But I would also get out on Thursdays because once they started giving us a van, then it was whoever was off was dropping the person off at the gig, and they had to be back to pick them up when the gig was over. But it was a free-for-all for us. I mean, a couple of my buddies drove from Phoenix to Crater Lake, or not the Meteor Crater that's up there in northern Arizona one time. And that's like an hour and a half drive itself, just one way. So, I mean, we got to do a lot of cool stuff like that. And, but I played a lot of golf. Like I met Jaybird that way. I went and I called a lot of people out of the directory and met them for rounds. And, yeah, I had my own directory for early on. That was one of the first unusual prizes I claimed, you know, when my friends were like, what are you doing? And I was like, dude, I travel. I'm gonna be hitting some courses, you know, and somewhere I got all those old directories in a box. I don't have any idea how many courses I played now. But yeah, I called this guy, Sal Vickers, and he took me to what's the course in Lansing where we played.
Yeah. Is it what part?
I don't even remember now. Now say I'm drawing a blank on it, but we played there in the Capital City Open. You know, Capital City Renegades is a club, so I at least got 2 things right about that, but I can't remember the name of that park. But Sal took me 2 years in a row. We played at the Breslin Center at Michigan State, and Sal picked me up and took me golfing both times, and both times randomly Jaybird happened to be there. The first time he was still teaching, and the second time he had his first 100 discs, and I bought 3 of them and lost 1 of them. So I still have 2 of Jaybird's first 100 discs somewhere.
All right, that's a pretty. So when did you get your first your PDGA number? Do you remember the circumstances?
So I'm going to be one of the few people on the show that doesn't have a story of I could have done it earlier or whatever, because I never really cared about it too much until I heard about the M Worlds, and if they said all you had to do is have some points and you can go. And there was only 94 people at Sacramento that first M Worlds I went to.
So it was 94, right?
Huh?
94.
Yeah, 94. Jim Oates ran it.
Did you
and like
join?
a ton of our friends were in it, and I didn't know any of them, like Tobish, Roger, McGilla. Oh man, dude, like God, I don't even remember all the people. Like they gave us one of the things that was really cool was they had an Olin Mills photographer, an Olin Mills style photographer. Like when you got your pictures done at school, well, they had one of them show up, and you got like the old little, not the hardbound yearbook, but you got a little yearbook with a bunch. It was like it was kind of like a cross between a yearbook and a college newspaper or something. But it had everybody's picture in it. So like I went back and looked at it one day, and I was like going, holy shit, look at all these guys that I hang out with anytime I'm out there. And all of them played in that event. Like, man.
Well, I'll go through the list here. This is okay. So it's 1994. We're looking at the 1994 AM World Championships. Jim Oates is the TD. 65 people in the field. John Tinsley wins.
Yeah, John Tinsley.
Tony Ellis was third.
Yeah.
Jason Tyra fourth.
There you go. Tyra's another guy from out there.
There are a lot of guys from out there. Michael Anderson was sixth. Marcus Roberts, not from out there, but from Lubbock.
Yeah, Marcus and I hung out that whole time.
Bonehead, where I got the skull, the chain zombies.
You got that from Skull Brown? Okay, cool.
Sorry, that's Ron Jones. I got it from Skull Brown, yes. But Ron
Yeah,
Brown,
but I think he's on that list too, though, isn't he?
He is, and he's 12th.
Yeah.
Mark Whittingslow, Roger Kanzler was 15th.
Yeah, Whittingslow too, and Kanzler. I mean, obviously, he's one of my long-term best buds too.
Tobish and McGilla tied at 21st.
Yeah, there you go.
Kevin Couch, 30th.
The couch potato.
Let's see here. I don't know. These names don't stand out to me, so I'm just kind of scrolling through them. But remember, Brian Mace was 51st.
Oh, it's terrible. I
only
didn't know about
56
playing in the
people
woods.
finished.
We played this course called Schweitzer, and it was in a eucalyptus grove. God, I hated it. I didn't know how to throw in that. I had no experience throwing in the woods. I mean, veterans was like, you know, I was like a lot of the people that don't play Zebos around here and don't play like any of the other wooded courses that we have. Like I couldn't play in that, and I wouldn't because I couldn't, you know, and it was just self-doom.
Just for historical perspective and posterity, Tracy Nations won the M1 women.
I was traveling with her on that too.
Nice.
Yeah, that was so I did the ZZ Top antenna tour that year. I took a buddy of mine's place. I was out for like 5 or 6 weeks on it. He popped a hernia while we were prepping it, and so he came home and recovered, and then he came back and sent me home, unfortunately. But I made lots of friends out there and on that tour, and I still had the itinerary. And so we went to travel. I looked at it, you know, just in case, and sure enough, so the tournament ended on Saturday, if I'm not mistaken, and ZZ played Arco Arena on Sunday night. So I told everybody that was going with this, I was like, make sure that you plan on leaving after the show, like plan on being here all day Sunday. So probably go home Monday. And so we all went to the show and everything, and I didn't have anything going on when I got home. So they were like, well, just go to Portland with us. And so I just, instead of going home, I had all my stuff with me anyways, because we were going to the airport after that, I think was the deal. And I was like, all right, Jerry and Tracy, I'll see you when we get home. I'm going with these guys.
Nice.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was good times.
Do you remember
Do I remember what?
your first ever disc?
My first ever disc. Okay, so I had I don't remember if that rock or the ABR was first, but I had an orange, you know, Big Bird San Marino rock, and I had a yellow ABR. I think that I got the rock first because, you know, it was more versatile from playing you know, for being a mid-range and whatnot. And I remember I lost it at Redan Park in Atlanta one of the times when I went with a directory and played by myself because nobody answered. Like back then, before, like there was times where there were cities with golf courses like Atlanta, and you could call a name in the directory and they wouldn't answer, or you could call them. And like one time I called the guy in Toronto and he goes, dude, nobody's gonna go to the island with you today because it was rainy. It was in October. And it was rainy. It was one of those, you know, it could be that way any day.
sometimes finding those courses in the directory, they wrote the instructions on the directions on how to get there based on backwoods
Oh, and you had to
local
know, yeah.
knowledge. You had to know like who's Krusty's cow. You got to turn
Well, what the
left at
local
there.
name for that road
What?
was too. Like
Yeah.
not a number on a road map, but like the local name for it, and
And you just had to drive sometimes. Like I remember driving across the country. I had Brand McNally Atlas open here and the PDGA director. Thank God it was like a 3-ring binder, not a 3-ring. It was the circular binder, so like laid open and it laid flat. But like small local routes to get to places, you could be
yeah,
circling around these places for
for
hours just to
sure.
find a course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then people are like, well, it's just real simple. And it's like, yeah, it's real simple if you're from here and you know those street names, but if you don't,
When you actually remember that glory when you actually come across the course, you get that extra sets, like you could smell the courses around here. I can see the terrain. Look at that. Oh, I know basket. I knew it. There's like a Columbus aha moment. It was great.
hey, McGill is watching, or he
Like,
was a little bit ago. What's up, Rosiska? Ryan Vivalacqua asked if Jaybird was Jay Reddick. No, Jaybird
no,
is Jaybird.
Jay Mathis.
Jay Mathis. He's from Lansing, Michigan, and he's the guy that blew up Dying Discs first. He was the
Yeah.
first guy that did lots and lots, and he's done like,
But he was
gosh, I
also
don't know,
one of
like closing in on 5 million discs he's died in his career, probably, or something like that.
he was
And
also
what's the
one of the
question?
first. What?
What's the question? Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say he was one of the first guys who was like one of the major branded retailers, like
For
a
sure.
Jaybird disc. Everybody wanted a Jaybird disc. I
Yeah,
remember like a
definitely.
sweet Jaybird putter with like the eagle feathers coming way up in the arc, like way before Innova was doing that stuff. Yeah, Jaybird. He's from Lansing, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember meeting him there. The Lansing and Great Lakes Open were the two tournaments back to back. Was like a super tour through Michigan on the way to some other bigger tournament. Usually it was the Worlds that was right after Great Lakes Open. But
Yep.
usually was Lansing first and then Great Lakes Open. So you go down there and you're in Michigan for 10 days. And Lansing to Ann Arbor was 2 hours, maybe, like not
Not even
far.
like 90 minutes, I think.
Yeah. So like
Yeah, it's not far. I mean, you get 2-3 hours away from Ann Arbor and you're up north already.
but I mean those at the time were top level tournaments that everybody wanted to be at and everybody pretty well was at. I remember in what was it, 97 or 98 at Lansing, half of California was there. That's where Earl
Yeah.
Weaver was there,
Well,
right?
yeah, exactly. Earl Weaver.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the other big things with you. So before we get on to the glamorous stuff, let's talk about the biggest ace you ever hit. Talk to us
Well,
about that.
hold on a second.
Uh-oh, where's he going? He's going to get the disc, I imagine. I think I feel like this was in the late 90s, early 2000s. Maybe it was like 2002, I think he said. And it was, a lot of times leagues, they'll have the dollar an ace and, dollar in for the ace pot. And, if it doesn't get hit, it just keeps rolling. And sometimes they go from like year to year. Oh, there we go. Look at this. It's turned into a trophy. Look at all those signatures.
Okay, so that
Okay.
basket, if you've ever won one of these at the VPO or at the Fritz Park Open, there's a couple other tournaments in Texas that use those baskets as well. They were made by a guy named John Garman, and I'm pretty sure he's still alive and kicking. I get a hacked Facebook message from him every now and then, and then we have to remind him, hey, you're thinking so. I'm still pretty sure he's still around, but I haven't played in Fritz in a while. So, anyways, back in 90. Well, so at the 92 VPO, this ace pot was already really big because people were talking about it then. And that was the first, if I'm not mistaken, that was my first really big tournament. It was a super tour or whatever they were called back then, A tier. And people came to town and they were like, I think that ace pot must have been, because in November, it must have been worth over, probably was $1,100 or $1,200 or something. And it was known around, you know, people were coming down from Oklahoma, not lots and lots of people, but every now and then someone would show up, you know, trying to snipe our ace pot and stuff. And Veterans wasn't the easiest place to hit an ace. And so August and I, or January 13th, 1993, Jerry picked me up, and this was like our habit. Jerry would pick me up on Sunday morning, and we'd head out there and we'd play the mini at Veterans Park. And you pay your entry fee and you pay $1 and you get on the ace pot. Well, Jerry rung part of this up at the end of the summertime. They would play in the summertime we'd play the short course when the daylight got short, and it would only be for a portion of the ace pot. And back then that they would run at the ace pot on Wednesday nights and Sunday nights in the summertime only. But when it got to be where they were playing the short course, they would only play for everything over $1,000. And Jerry knocked down like $500 off of that ace pot, I think, or something. We'll have to ask him at some point. Like we'll see him in Rock Hill. But anyways, Jerry rolls out to the park, takes me out to the park, and it's like 30 degrees, dude. And I know that doesn't seem like much to a lot of people, but that's Arlington, Texas, 30 degrees. And we're not really well prepared for that. And I was still pretty new to the golf game. So I didn't have a lot of the precautions that everybody.
So everybody knows 30 degrees Fahrenheit, not Celsius.
Yeah.
30 degrees Celsius
Yeah.
is heat index.
So Jerry pulls up in the parking lot and he goes, "Get out, dude." And I go, "What?" And he goes, "My bed's warm. I'm going home. Get out. I'll be back to pick you up when this is over. There's no way I'm playing golf today." And I'm not bullshitting you. I told him, I go, "You better be back here in time to see me get that ace pot money. Just make sure you're here when they start paying me that dough." I'm not lying to you. You can ask him. I told him that. Maybe not exactly in those words.
What year is this? 92?
1993.
93. That's when you got. Oh, I thought it was later that you got the big
No,
record
January
deal.
93.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
continue.
so
sorry.
no, it's quite all right. It's quite all right. So anyways, the thing that's really funny, again, going back to the ace, talking about the ace at the VPO in 93 or 92, RT Randy Travis from Oklahoma City was one of the people was going, "Yeah, we need to run at that. We need to blah, 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 you know, and so on and so forth." And then he gets on hole 2 at Veterans, the old hole 2, with the bathroom behind you. And he tells the guys on hole 9, you know, remember hole 2, 9, 8 played up to the side on hole 2. And then 9, you crossed 2's fairway to get to 9's tee pad, and it played up over the little pavilion, little shelter, band shell kind of thing. Well, anyways, RT tells the group on 9 to watch out because he's going to skip it where they're standing and it's going to go in the basket. And I'll be damned if that's not what happened. During the VPO, he called the skip ace and then he did it.
Nice.
Well, so we're walking up that morning and I'm telling that story about RT doing it. And then I skip aced it for 1667.
A skip ace.
Yeah.
What disc was it?
The Viper, old mold
Viper.
Old
mold.
The original mold Viper from check it out. Remember we were talking about River Bends, the world's.
Hold on, pull up. There you go. It's hard to see there. I know it's obscure. There you go. River Bends, World's 92.
Yeah, Mike Dixon. I bought this disc from Mike Dixon in the parking lot after he came back. Like he had bought a stack of them, you know, just with the intention to give people an opportunity to get something that was from somewhere else. And I'm gonna tell you, dude, that thing was ready. It was the driver in my bag. And you remember back in the day when you threw DX discs, you know, if you had a favorite DX driver, you had a brand new one, you had one that was ready, and then you had one that was past ready, that was past its time, and you know, use it for trick shots, or it eventually became your roller. Well, that dude, that disc is still so ready. I would never throw it again, but you know, it's you know, it's just one of those things. And so I ended up like one of my few claims to fame as a player was I hit 4 ace pots from the tee pads on the original course at Veterans, and nobody else did that.
Wow. Okay. Were they all in the league? for money?
They were offered one of them. One of them was hole 8 with in a double barrel shootout. I had Johnny Powell as a partner. Who Becky Powell was the administrator of the PDGA back in the old days, and I hit that hole 2 a second time in an ice bowl tournament, and I got like $2,347 on that hole alone. And then I also hit old hole 1, which is now 11, where the or excuse me, old hole 11, it's now hole 1 by the parking lot. Remember when you pulled in, there was like 3 trees right there, and the big trees, like when you pulled in and it made you curve. There was a short pin there, which was like 365, I think. And then there was another longer pin right as you turned in, and some smaller trees. And then there was the long pin over in the woods way on the right there. So I aced the short one there.
I remember that one, kind of under the big tree there. You had
those really big, beautiful oaks. There's a big oak and then 2 mesquites, and they're all gone.
That's the thing about Texas and Oklahoma, is it's really big on the skip. Hard pan, hard pack ground.
For sure.
Pretty wild for the big skip. All right,
So,
well,
that story, the final part of that story, the whole way the MACEMAN thing came up was, and the reason why the M's hollow in the MACEMAN logo is RJ Jerez. So RJ, Mike Randolph, Harold Hampton come to town. They're on tour. Had to have been the next. No, it was in '95, because Harold, like I had the biggest $1 ace pot for a really, really long time. And then Harold Hampton that summer hit an insurance ace for like $2,500. You know, one of those you can buy throws and stuff.
Yeah.
And when we have the general on, we'll have to have him tell that story, because there's video of that too. And he like those. Nice. It's a big downhill shot. He hits. It seems like it was either an ABR or a rock, and he smashed it. And so that was something else. It was really cool. Really cool.
Sweet. So because of the ace, that's why the M is hollow?
Okay, so RJ Jerez, we go Sam Grizzoffi's birthday. We're meeting up with Mikey Sayre and Randolph. Harold didn't go with us. And I found out later that Harold wouldn't go drinking with RJ. Harold stayed at my place and slept in, and we went. And RJ was there. RJ was really tame that night. There's nights where RJ could not be tame, but he was sitting in the backseat of the car. We're driving in Randolph's car with all the signatures.
Yeah.
Okay, so we were in that car that night, and Randolph kept going, MACEMAN, ACEMAN, MACEMAN, ACEMAN, you know, and that's where it came from. Just kind of took it from there, and it stuck with those guys. And
those are some good homies to be rolling around coming up with.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like, yeah, Sammy was there, Mike Sayre, Matt Franks,
all in the big white car?
Huh? No, not in the car. We drove out to see him.
I thought that was happening during the car ride.
No, but we were in that car with all the signatures.
That would have been cool.
What was that, a Marauder? I don't know. It was a big old AMC.
So MACEMAN has been pretty instrumental. Well, it had been. You took some time away. You stepped away a little bit, but you really were one of the few in the footsteps of Stokely and his doubles and clinics.
Oh, he's totally just like, I mean, he didn't hand it over to me, but he encouraged me to do it while he was still doing it. And then he went away, and I just kept on going with it.
I mean, MACEMAN, you started MACEMAN with your brother originally and Eugene.
Yeah.
And you guys were basically just retailing discs at that time.
Yeah.
Doing maybe some other merch.
We were doing some, but we always had custom. Not necessarily always on the discs, but we had custom clothing. You know, I mean, we had our own art on the clothing, and whenever we possibly could, we had custom artwork on our discs as well.
And so at that time, this is before really the spread of internet, definitely before online shopping or anything like that. Did you have people that you would mail order to, or was it just all?
No, not really. I pretty much just did it. I mean, that's the problem with doing something as a one-man show. I mean, you don't got time to mail stuff out too if you're out wandering.
Yeah. So I mean, in order to move merchandise, you have to
I
physically
went to
be
events.
place to place. So you would
Yeah,
either show up at tournaments or you would create your own events, which became the MACEMAN doubles, and you went all across basically the continent with that, right?
yeah, for 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah.
And it's cool to talk to some people who found that for them as like part of their foundation story. Oh, I went to a MACEMAN doubles and this happened, or I met this person, like
Yeah,
that's
and that's really there's so many more people doing that right now. It's really amazing. And it's like I don't even remember who it was the other day that we were talking to, but they talked about, oh, it was Sprague, like like I totally just heard the whole thing in his his storyline. Like people didn't really care to come to my clinics because who was I? I mean, I wasn't, but like when I'd have guys like Sprague or when I had Nolan on the road with me and when
right.
and there's, man, we did at Cass Benton, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 years in a row. And I think you were there for at least one of them, but I would get everybody to come over to Cass Benton and we would have we would have like 9 or 10 touring players doing clinics, and
Well,
just
see,
doing individual stuff with people and doing big deal with everybody. And I mean, like,
just to put this to perspective, but maybe, I mean, there's probably everybody watching this already knows this, but just again to put it in perspective, because you had been relentlessly on the tour for so long. I mean, you're already doing the tour life with shows, so it was easy for you to coordinate shows and
yeah,
tournaments and
it
all
was
that.
if
But
I felt like a
but when
glove.
you appear consistently from place to place, to tournament to tournament to tournament, you get that level of bonding, you get that level of respect, and you become friends. I mean,
Oh,
at
it was
that time,
awesome.
we're sharing hotel rooms, we're sharing
Oh my
floors, we're all
God. Think about
sharing
all those.
the
I say
Monday
that
fun day.
yeah, for sure. I say this all the time and people look at me funny and they go, what are you talking about? 'Cause we used to gang rape a hotel. There'd be like 4 of us. We sometimes five
That's
of
not a
us.
good metaphor.
But yeah,
But
but it
anyway,
is. It's perfect because there'd be 2 of us in each bed and one person or 2 people on the floor, and sometimes somebody sleeping in a van in the parking lot if Matt Kerner was with us or something. And so
right?
like
Yeah,
seriously, and a motorhome too, probably. Like
yeah.
think about how many times 7 or 8 people took a shower in our hotel room before we
Or
went to the course on Saturday morning,
or we'd stay at certain people's places who had a little bit of space.
and they would
Remember,
just
remember
roll out the.
Colonel's place in Minneapolis? How many people stayed there? There were like 25 of us staying
Oh
at
my
his
God,
place.
man.
I mean, amongst the people on the street and putting up tents around
Exactly. All
there.
the campers in the
And
backyard that one time.
yeah,
And
and
yeah.
but I mean, like that level of intimacy, you go through that level of touring and grinding and sharing the good times, the bad times, primarily the bad times, and going through like tough weather events, or that's real bonding. So that when you can have these MACEMAN events, you can say, "Hey, champ, can you come on out and just help me out here? Hey, Avery, can you please?" And of course, they're all your pals, so they would.
Oh, and man, so many. I mean, part of the reason why we've had so many cool people on this show so far is because of the friendships that we made back in those days, and in
Yeah,
those exact situations you're talking about,
yeah.
and it's man, that's what I miss. I don't miss playing tournaments. I miss seeing those people on the regular, on the rotation, and then and just like those good times, those fun Monday fun days, and I mean, yeah, I mean, I remember one time we had been at Kerner's, and then we all went to the quarry up by St. Cloud.
That wasn't Monday Fun Day, wasn't it? That was like a Thursday.
Um,
That was when we were cliff jumping into the river, right?
no, 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 this was a different time.
Oh,
We went to the
okay.
quarry. Yeah, I didn't go to that cliff jumping thing. I don't know. I
That
think
was
I
Randolph
might have
got me
missed
up into that.
that time when I messed up my van or something. But
Yeah.
um, I remember going up there and Avery rode with me, and I told him I was really thinking hard about not playing Worlds. And he goes, dude, you got to play Worlds. And I was like, no, I don't have to play Worlds. I go, dude, I could go get a job at 7-Eleven for 2 weeks and make more money than I'm going to make as a player at Worlds. I said, I just go to the town, wherever we're going to be, and I'll just get a job at 7-Eleven for 2 weeks and I'll come out with more money in my pocket as a player. I go, I don't have to play there, dude. I don't need to. I'll just run MACEMAN doubles that whole practice week. And then I'll come in and I'll vend and I'll hang out. And you know what? Worlds is a blast when you don't play it. It's
Yeah.
one of the funnest things that you're ever going to do. Like if you ever thought about going to Worlds and not playing and just hanging out, I highly recommend it, because then you can go and hang out and watch golf if you want, or you can drink and talk till 3 a.m. if you want. And if you sleep till noon, so what? You're still even.
So I've had only 2 worlds experience, one as a player and one as a partier, and the player was 99. I had a great time because of my first worlds, but you know, you're playing and it's exhausting, and you're playing 2 rounds a day, and you're traveling sometimes between Chai Lai and Ellison, and it's
Oh
like
yeah.
an hour plus commute. And my second worlds, that's where we started Good Times in
Mhm.
2004 Des Moines, and we were just there to bring the noise, and it was honestly the best time. And I'm that was when I twisted my knee and I had to go back, or I thought I had to go back, so I should have stayed for the whole end of the week, but I left early. But the time I was there was just man. So you mentioned Monday Fun Day. Let's wrap up your segment here and talk about the Price is Right. That was the ultimate Monday Fun Day
That
moment,
was the
wasn't it?
ultimate Monday fun day, without a doubt.
So
That
so
was
lay it out, lay it out. Come on,
okay. Well, so
you're in LA for a tournament,
back in
right?
the day, well, there's a little groundwork before that. Back in the day, I ran a lot of tournaments, and most of them were over the winter, because I had to do something. I thought at the time that it was a good idea for me to not go back to the entertainment business in the winter, which, looking back on it now, I should have gone back to the entertainment business in the winter. But that's all history. But I ran the first big events of the year. Like the Zebos Open was like the first super tour of the year. And I had that series called the Big Show, which we ran a 2-day event the weekend
Great tournament.
before. And then we had a midweek event. And then we'd have the Zebos Open. And there was a time when I was incredibly insane, where I ran a 2-day event on 3 weekends in a row, which was like started with the Zebos AM tournament. And then somewhere else, one time it was Louisville, one time it was Veterans, and then we do the Zebos Open Pro, and then have a 1 or a 2-day event in the middle of the week of both of those weeks. So this particular year, which was 03, I believe, same year that the first Golden State Classic, Eric McCabe shows up at the Zebos Open, and we were all going, to California after this. But he goes, "I got tickets for the Price is Right on the Monday after the Golden State Classic. All y'all should see about getting tickets too." And of course, all of us were very interested in that, so we looked into it, and as it turns
Well, wait,
out,
where was the Golden State Classic?
at La Mirada,
Oh, okay.
and it was the next. It was either the very next weekend or the weekend after that. I think it was the very next weekend, and so we all go to play the La Mirada Open, or play the Golden State Classic, and we all meet up to go down there. Well, Billy Crump, Brian Schweberger, and Brian McCree were touring together, and they parked the motorhome across the street and slept there across the street from where you had to go to get in line, because you could get tickets. You either had to have tickets. How did that work out? You had to have tickets by mail, or you could get there in line and get tickets, and they only took so many people. And like literally, I was 290 or 291. I think I was 290. They gave us. I got a tag somewhere as PIR
Oh,
290.
the number. Okay.
Yeah, whatever my eBay handle is, I think it's PIR 290. That was the reason I named that, was from that tag. And I think they only let in like 5 more people after me. And at one point there was only one person in line behind me, and then they let in a few more. But anyways, Billy Crump was the primary reason that we got in, because he got up at like 5:15 and got in that line. And he was and we were
But that's
still down the
that's
list.
that's not necessarily the case. I remember you telling me that there was somebody who was coming out in the line and just kind of talking to you guys and
Oh no,
getting a
no, I'm
sense
getting
of.
to that. All right,
Okay.
so I'll get to that. So but I'm saying the initial line, Billy got us in line at like 5:15. Billy Crump gets the credit for that.
Billy Crump.
And
Billy
and
Crump.
he and like the thing that was really cool was, he talked to everybody. He goes, "Look, I got 20 people showing up. Just be aware, I'm not just me. I got 20 people showing up." And it ended up being 19. And we all just started showing up, and then we waited in line. We waited in line,
Okay,
and
wait, wait, wait,
finally
wait.
they took us through this we waited in line, and then they gave us our passes to come back and get in line for the show, for the early show. That's why the 290 mattered. And then they turned us loose. And
But
we,
wait. Before you go further, you had already showed up to line up in shirts.
no. I'm getting to the shirts. I'm getting to the
Oh,
shirts.
wow.
So they
Okay.
turn us
I'm up on
loose.
all the.
Like, so Avery and Felberg went to the trouble of buying those green shirts. And they, so we were there from like 5:30, 6 in the morning until at 8:30, they turned us loose. And they said, be back here at 10. You guys are going to be at the 10 in the 10:30 show, going to the 10:30 show. So be back here at 10 and line back up here, blah, blah, blah. You're free to go. You can go get breakfast or whatever. And, you know, we'd been there for a while. So we all did go get breakfast, and we went to this little shopping center where they had a party store, and we bought glue and glitter. And we had the t-shirts in Cam's motorhome, and we just set up in the parking lot. We laid out all these t-shirts, and we spelled out play DG with Bob, or play disc golf with Bob. I guess that works out 19. Yeah, play disc golf with Bob is 19 letters.
Play DG with Bob, I think, is 18.
Okay,
no,
so
wait, you know, yeah, 19. You're right. Play disc golf with Bob. And
so
what letter were you?
I was W.
W.
Yeah,
The only W.
So we used the glue to make our letters, and then we covered it with glitter. So we got all the glitter and stuff on it. I mean, if I don't really want to break that shirt, it's on the archives or whatever. And you can see it. Paul's going to play this, but so we come back, we get back in line. We're sitting there for a while, and then they come and get us. Basically, it starts up like there's 290 people in this line, and they start going through, and there's one guy, and he's backed up by 3 people with pens and clipboards. And he's like, who are you? Where are you from? What do you do? And like, he's going down the line. And I'm the middle of our group. I was the 10th probably golfer. And he was already about to go to the next guy. He goes, what's your name? Where are you from? What do you do? And I said, I'm Brian Mace. I'm from Arlington, Texas. And I'm a disc golf promoter and a professional player, and blah, 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 blah. And he goes, oh, so you wear multiple hats? You know, wear 2 hats? And I go, sometimes 3. And he asked me a couple more questions, and I thinking back on it, they all started writing. And so they kept on going. He's interviewing people, and I'm telling you for sure that they pick him. There's no 2 ways that wasn't, you know, like they were just going, oh, well, we got all these damn pro frisbee players. Oh, wait, this guy, he runs tournaments, and he's, you know, a promoter too, blah, 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 blah. So, you know, all right, this guy's pretty interesting. We don't got any other people that are interesting like that. We're picking him. And then the next people that were sitting by us were the principals. They were going to the principal convention, the National Conference of Principals of, you know, schools and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Well, he's the one that ended up winning the big showcase, you know, spinning the wheel and everything. But they were sitting across from us all morning long because of the way they lined us up. And so we got to be friends with them. And then we ended up being in the row. They were in the row behind us.
Can you hear that?
No.
Is that coming through? Okay. Here you go. You get called. They call your name. Look at him. He's wearing this magic W.
Dude, you want me to get it? I'll get it with the audio if you want.
You can get that?
Yeah.
Okay, you get that. That's just we need to rock that. Go get it. So it's like, it seems like a fairly big room. It seems like there's and you know, for those of us who are big Seinfeld fans, that's one of the things. Elaine has a coworker who she describes as, you know, it's like working with a Price is Right contestant. It's all but the energy in that room must be off the freaking charts.
Oh yeah, dude.
There. Like, how many people can say in their lives that they had their name called out by Roddy?
I'm one of them.
Like, what did that feel like? I know you jumped up and you busted out, and you're a big guy. You're like,
dude, it's one of the coolest experiences ever. I mean, all right, let me get this working here, right? not that one.
So this is one of the things that on the tour, especially the early, well, not the early days, but like 90s and 2000s, on the Monday, you know, you get it at town, maybe Thursday, you practice, play Friday. Usually you play doubles on Friday. You got the 2 days of the tournament. And then Monday, you just want to, before you go on anywhere, you just want to relax. And Monday Fun Day was an institution that,
Here we
I don't
go.
know if you guys coined it. Can you hear that? I can't hear it.
Can you hear it?
No,
Huh?
I can't hear, but can you hear it?
You can't hear it?
I can't hear it. No. Can you hear it?
Yeah, I totally can. It's loud.
But like, just keep playing, keep playing, keep playing.
All right.
Let it play. So she comes in with this train. You come down to the look at you. You got to pretend interest. There's 3 other yobs there on the floor with you, and Bob's looking dapper. You get to go first. Now look at your face. Look at this. 1250. What does she say? What does she say?
$51. Me watch.
Watch the face.
Look
Look
at
at that
my
face.
reaction.
Look at that reaction. Oh God.
These two should be married. They're both not the sharpest tool in the bag.
1300. Well, she's gonna go with go. What's she gonna go with? 1350. Okay. Oh well, 1350 wins the thing. She gets to go up there. Okay. Okay, we cut over that. Now let's go one more time. We're gonna get another player down here. Look, there's all the golfers. Look at them all.
Yeah.
Real quick pan over there was a little too quick.
The reactions of all these people are just unbelievably hilarious.
So now this, we talked to Kevin McCoy about this, but okay, you're looking back to Kevin McCoy because he was the one who
Kevin
was like
McCoy.
he was the
Kevin
price is
McCoy,
right,
feed me information.
the price adjuster, if you will.
Man, I wish I could get this to. This guy's not working with all the tools either.
$125. That's really seems kind of low. What does Mace go at? 750. That's a little closer to the real world. So when you would look back to Kev, would he just like mouth it out, or would you put the hands up, the fingers up? How would he do
Kevin's
it?
giving me he's like mouthing me numbers and stuff and like giving me singles. And look at this guy. He's like going, I just screwed myself.
$1. Oh, Mace gets it. 750. Look at them all. Look at them all. There's Cam. There's Cam. He had the dollar sign. Cam top with the dollar sign. And so it's too bad we can't hear this, but he shakes your hand. And now you get to go for, what do they call this? This is the first prize. But this is what I find so
This is such crap, man. I mean, like,
a car
you know,
bed.
like, what am I going to do with this?
You're gonna win this. What part of you is gonna go inside of that car bed? Or you get a fake fireplace.
Or an electric fireplace for your mobile home.
But the game you're playing, switch. Now this is where he has a chance to talk to you about this golf. And he's interested, and you point out all the golfers. Look at them
Yeah,
all.
look at that
freaking out.
group, man. I mean,
Look at that group. And so, you know, there's the first interaction. And so, like, the world gets to see on that major stage. Bob Barker said the word disc golf. Just looking
you're
back.
getting the
you're looking
lowdown from
back.
Kevin again.
Oh, look back one more time. He's gonna stay. Are those the right prices? The bed, is it? Oh, it's 1524. Booyaka.
All right, so this is significant. If you look right
Yeah.
here, so I'm standing here in the middle of 2 other people, and he's
Yeah.
talking to me. He's
Only
not,
to you.
he doesn't give 2 shits about what Lena's got to say.
Yeah.
And he's really cool to this guy, you know, because he's a military guy and everything, but he's asking me disc golf questions, or he's asking me questions about disc golf.
Yeah.
And you know, and like, honestly, after my first game and after the questions he asked me and the way that the things that he said to me, that he picked up from me talking in that brief little bit, I was like, all right, I don't think I have anything else to tell. I think I've done a really good job of telling the story. And then he asked me 2 more questions, and I'm just like, holy cow. So here we go. I'll play this the rest of us.
Yeah, so we zone in here and he's just like, okay, let's talk about more about frisbee golf, disc golf. And he's using the correct terminology too. He's not calling it frisbee golf.
But we asked his questions.
Look at them all. Look at them all standing. Look at them all. There's Avery. Look at this is the amount of screen time on national television.
Exactly, man.
It's amazing. I mean, sometimes, yeah, there's some kind of story that he likes to talk about, but it's rare that he lets it go on this long. Yeah. I remember watching the videotape of this and I was just,
Look at
"Oh,
this.
it's
I'm like,
fun."
I like gotta give the friends a nod.
So this is why we take it back to your days in drama. You got no problem standing on a huge stage like that, talking to Bob Barker about disc golf.
Lena
You didn't
totally
look
screwed me with this puny spin.
45 cents.
She totally left me in a bad spot on the wheel.
Look at you. You just give that power rip. You think it's going to come off the axle there. Start rolling into the crowd. No, got past that. Uh-oh. 20 cents. Come on, you can do this. You can do this. Oh, 70 cents? No. Oh, 90 cents is too much. 25 is too little. Oh, he wants to shake your hand one more time. Nice.
All right, so there you go.
That's
So that
good too.
was really amazing. I mean, like I think of, oh, what is this? Uh-oh. Stand by.
What happened?
Oh, here you go. Next commercial. YouTube is sharing with me without my knowledge. Anyways, man, you know, it was really an amazing experience. And like you said, it was just like another day at work, you know. I mean, like I haven't watched a lot of TV shows like that, but I did a ton of those Benny Hinn TV shoots and just about anything else you can imagine in the entertainment business. So like it really didn't even occur to me that all them people were out there, except for when I was looking back for help from Kevin, you know. And so like Kevin and Billy Moody, who's another amazing golfer friend from Tulsa, now Austin. He goes, yeah, hell yeah, we watched it every day at 10 o'clock, you know. I mean, you know, PIR, me and Bob and Roddy, and you know, and so it was, I mean, it was just one of those things. It's another thing, like when I said when we interviewed Kevin back, you know, a few months back, is I was thinking back before that show and like all these different cool memories that I got. He was there for most of them, you know, because we were out there at the same time in the same era. We split a lot of hotel rooms together, but you know, I mean, like you see Brad Hammock was there, Pat Govain, Barry,
That's who it was.
Terry
Pat
Roddy, Schwebby McCree and Billy Crump, a guy named Sam Heileman. I don't know if he still works for the West Coast Innovo or not, but he joined us. I mean, that was there. I mean, Avery was there. Lucky Todd, I believe, was there too.
Okay.
I was staying at the Ricos, you know.
Were they there too?
No, they went to
Oh.
work. They went poured concrete.
Well, it all worked out because he's got a sweet business going on, but
Oh yeah.
they could have called his name. You never know. He wouldn't have been as fascinating. I'm just saying, no one could do it like you could do
Okay. It was awesome. It was awesome. All right, so look, we're an hour and 15 minutes into this talking about me. Let's start talking about you.
Boy, it can't go this long for me. It's pushing the limits. But uh, all right. So I
How'd
started.
you? Yeah, origin story. Let's get going with that.
So I used to be. I still am a DJ, but at the time in 1993 was when I first found out about the game. I was me and Paul Root were DJs. Paul and Paul at that time in the after hours scene in Toronto. It was just duos of DJs, and they were just their first names. There was no, DJ Insidious or DJ Chemical or anything like that. It was just Dino and Terry, Tyrone and Peter, Paul and Paul. And I was still going to Trent at the time. So I would come back to from Peterborough to Toronto on weekends. And one of our good friends who was really kind of knew a lot of the party promoters in the scene was a guy I had met in late high school, James. He became a bike courier, and his bike courier friends told him about it. And towards the end of my semester, my final year, third year, sorry, I think like I want to say like March, maybe early April, Paul Rudd calls me up and he's like, dude, I just went to the island and I played the most awesome thing, disc golf. And as soon as he said those two words on the phone, I hadn't seen it. I don't even know what this is, but I'm like a lover of frisbee and all things like that. And he said disc golf, and I just went gong. I got to play this.
Rude boy, huh?
Rude boy, and I was like, I have to
Wow.
play this. So when I got back to town after the school year was over, we went to the island, and en route to the island, we stopped at the Queens Quay Terminal building, and there was a store, and I can't remember what it was called. Touch the Sky, I think it was called. It was like a game kite store kind of thing. They sold board games, but also kites and just other games, sporting type things. It was like a small little boutique, but they also had a couple of racks of golf discs, which I didn't realize, but Sully was stocking them because of his connections with Innova Canada. And I just go down there and I don't know what I'm looking for. I see this like two boxes of discs, and I just started pulling out. What is this? Okay, the dog looks good. What is this? I don't know. I don't know what that word means, but I'm gonna take it. So my first two discs were an AVR and a Whippet. So my first round, I throw this thing.
Wow.
I throw the Whippet this way, and it goes boom way there. I'm like, what the? This is
Super
wrong,
stable.
dudes. But
Super stable.
I loved it from the first moment, and just this particular thing about Toronto, especially Toronto Island, the level of anticipation. You get yourself to the ferry terminal, and you're like, I can't wait to play. But now you got to wait till the boat shows up, and
Yep.
then you got to get on the boat, and you got to wait till the boat like, and they lift the dock and then shut the doors, and then it takes 15 minutes to get across the bay, and then you get off there, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna play, and it's like literally a 2 kilometer walk to the course from there, and you keep
Yep.
walking around this bend in anticipation. When am I going to see the first basket? Oh my god! And
And
back
then there's
then,
the firehouse.
but back then the course started like they built the fire hall in the middle of our course. They took over our land there. For those who know the island and know what I'm talking about, if you're coming along the path from Ward's Island, from the Ward's Island ferry, you pass by the Riviera, and the bridge to Algonquin, where Brian Honecker and the PDGA office were for decades. And then the next building on the south side is this thing called the Shaw House, and it's like a seniors kind of building. It's very low key, and the course used to start right beyond that. And it was 18 holes. It was just on the south side of the path, and it went up to where it's literally less than half of what the land is now. But at the time we didn't care, and I was losing my mind. You mean I can come down here and I can play as many rounds as I can until like I run out of energy or I got to go home, and it doesn't cost anything. I invested like $25 in these frisbees, and I can just all day long. Oh, I loved it. I fell in love with it. And the thing about the island at that time in 93, it was weird. Toronto was like Toronto, which is a really interesting situation. We had not Jim Kenner, Jim Kenner's backer, Wallace Kenny. He kind of ran the island or the Etobicoke League and the Etobicoke. And so Discraft, that was the land of Discraft because he was silent partners with Jim Kenner and Discraft. and Sully was Innova, Canada. And so the island was Innova territory, and never the twain shall meet. But even
Yeah.
on the island, you had these atomized groups. Like, so I remember seeing that first year, I clearly remember seeing Sully and Pinniger and Malton and Honiger and a couple of Sully's other friends just meeting casually and playing these, boastful for pride rounds. Loser has to pay for the hot dogs back home, but they would never talk to us. We're new players, and they can obviously tell we're new players because they play there all the time. And all of a sudden, these two new guys show up. No one wants to talk to us, so we just taught each other our own mistakes, and we're just playing around, hacking around until yeah, that 93. I played I think like 5 weeks straight, almost every day. And finally, I think it was Pinniger took notice of me, and he said, "Are you going to play the tournament?" I'm like, "Wait, what are you talking about? What is the tournament?" I didn't tournament. What? What's that? I had no idea. So I played my first tournament. I took third place in M2, I believe. And part of my winning prize was a PDGA membership. So that's where I got my PDGA member
Oh,
from.
nice. That's
Yeah,
cool.
Goopy saved money on the payout. So, but my first ever tournament round, I got to play with Elaine King. She was
Awesome.
on her warm up to winning her third straight world championships at Huntsville later that year. And I was like, "You mean I got to play with a girl?" And then after the first drive, I was like, "Oh, who the heck is that?"
Yeah, right. She put it on you, huh?
Oh my God, I don't even know.
She'd so kindly whoop your butt without any trouble at all.
It would be really cool if I had access. Oh, well, I could probably look up at Lane King and see what her stats are, and then figure out I could easily see what that round was that I played with her. But I wasn't dissuaded from playing. I was still, at the time, I was really interested in pursuing higher education, and I thought I was going to go somewhere with that. So I went back for my fourth year at Trent, and I got really into. I was kind of playing around the school, but the snows in Peterborough come down like end of October, and they stay until virtually the end of March. So it's not a good time, and I never ever liked playing in the snow ever, really.
Yeah.
I kind of faked it, or I had to be drunk enough to do it, but I did it at the time, not at the time.
I've done it a few times, but it's not something that I would want to. I guess maybe I would get better at it and more into it if I lived where I needed to, but that's one of the only reasons to stay here where I live is the winters don't suck. Even when the winters suck, they don't suck like they suck elsewhere.
Okay, so in 1993, it was called the Canadian Disc Golf Championships. Sully won the Open over Malton and Pinniger, Paul Sullivan. Alex Hughes was fifth. Zippy Zinn was sixth. Doug Opiella was seventh, and Paul Middleton was eighth. Elaine won by 48 strokes over Corey Batch. Honegger was a dominant by 7 strokes over Bob Harris. Wallace Kenny didn't finish. Royce Razanowski came up to play Grandmasters and won.
Nice.
Advanced Steve Crazy Porter. I'm not quite sure who he was, but apparently he tied Jim Saunders. Brandon Fleming took fourth. Broker took fifth, and Bubba took sixth, if anybody's paying attention to that. And then we look at the intermediate, and there's only two PDGA members. Paul Michel beat me by 18 strokes.
Nice.
He took second. Mike Mueller won. He beat me by 212 or 251. We're looking at 39 strokes. So Elaine and I head to head. She was 199 and I was 251. So she beat me by 52 strokes on
A lot.
3 rounds. That was my first tournament experience. That was my only tournament that year. Went to school, back to school, thought that was it. And I went to Toronto. I thought I enrolled for a master's program, ended up pulling out of it. But sometime in 95, I rediscovered disc golf. And that's when I really fell in love with it. And I would get like the Disc Golfer magazine, and I would just read the tournament recaps, and I would just like be entranced by these names. Jeff Lissaman, Steve Valencia, RJ Jerez. They just sounded like mythical, but like Tony Hawk in that kind of like really California iconic kind of way, you know? It
Right.
just rung in my mind. And so those long winter nights, I would just read about disc golf. And when 95 hit, I went and played. Just that's when I rented a car and I played Great Lakes Open. I played the Cincinnati Am Worlds. I played Rochester. I went on a tear and I didn't really stop from there. And man,
Yeah.
what a hell of a ride. And so 97, I had gone out in 96. I'd finished my master's in 96 and bought a car and went on a tour. And that's where I met with you and veterans, kind of middle of my fall tour, and continued on. I played a bunch of courses. I was just, again, driving with the road, Rand McNally Road Atlas and the disc golf directory, and
Yeah,
trying to
that's the way we
get
did
as
it back
many as we
then.
could. And I drove across Canada and then down the West Coast and playing courses, and all through into Texas, Louisiana. I remember I'm pretty sure I played somewhere in Louisiana, but I couldn't tell you where now. I must have played at least 150 courses before I even started losing all my brain cells. But I finished that tour and came back, and that winter, that's when I met Skio.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
and so he and I became like Batman and Robin, or Superman and Batman. I'm not sure, but we became fast friends, instant friends, and we would tour, go down to like, I think our first travel tournament was to this doubles tournament in Fort Wayne. We went with Chappie, and he and I played paired up. That's where we met Zhang, Eric Zhang.
Oh,
Um,
nice. Young Zanga.
and then on the way back from Fort Wayne, we stopped at Ann Arbor. I'd already played Ann Arbor at the Great Lakes Open, but we stopped for like I think it was called No Foolin'. Was their April
Yeah,
Fool's Day
yep,
tournament?
yep.
And then when I got back, I think it was on that ride that Chappie told me that Honecker became the executive director of the PDGA, and I schemed my hiney off to try to weasel into some kind of. Do you need like an official envelope liquor, or is there anything I got stuff envelopes? What do you got? Can I feed your cats while you're working? I want to work for the PDGA, and I got the job. I was like, Honegger was one of the first paid positions, but I was like the first hourly rate PDGA employee, which is kind of an
Nice.
interesting asterisk that will be lost forever to time, because I don't think the PDGA wants to keep track of those records. But Honegger remembers, and he'll back up my story. Dude, time working in that little office. Did you ever see that office?
I didn't see the maybe I did see the office, just but yeah, I mean it was tiny.
It was
I mean
like,
the house wasn't big.
no, the house
Like
wasn't big.
none of the room, no, there wasn't a big room in that house. I mean,
Yeah, but that office was like, most people have a closet that size. And Honecker and I, we had this longer kind of desk, and I was sitting here, and my main job, and I think I've said this a couple times on the show, but my main job was, we would get the tournament, the tournament finished tournament reports from TDs, and I would put that data, input it into the computer, and the PDGA was using a pretty old school kind of database, and right beside me, like literally right there, is Honecker, but the phone's right here. And so whenever the phone rings, he's got to reach across. And let me tell you, there was some close confines. I felt like is this UFC material here? Do I defend, do I defend my zone? I don't know. What do I do? I don't want to, he's my boss, I guess. But I spent, I spent about a year and a half working for the BJ, and it was kind of cool actually. In the tour of '98, so I was 97. I was really active in the Can-Am series, and thanks to I think straight second place finishes on the Can-Am series, I was in line for like a upper level position with the overall Can-Am points. I don't know if I won the overall or if I came second because my finish at Pinafore, but that's when Vandenberg asked me to take it over, and that's when I was working hard for the PDGA, and I went on tour. Specifically, I remember going down to Veterans, played my last ever AM tournament at the Veterans Park Open Amateur. I went out to Las Vegas, and I played the Las Vegas Halloween Classic as my first ever pro. My first card Stevie Rico. Probably beat me
Nice.
by like at least 19 strokes over 18 holes that first round. It was, and this guy Riley Manderscheid, I think is his name. He's like a low PJ number. He used to play back in the day. Oh, he was not having, he was an unhappy camper that whole first round. But I remember that was Steve Rico with my pro debut. But
Nice.
later I went on to I remember going to Bowling Green, Charlotte. I don't think I went down to Arizona, but I remember going to a bunch of big super tours at the beginning of the year as a PDJ representative, trying to get people to renew. Because getting people to renew timely was a real problem with the PDJ at that
For
time.
sure.
And so I got to meet a lot of people just based on that. Because like I'm the guy standing in front of the PDJ banner.
Yeah,
So
Ginley told me one time, he goes, yeah, we used to be the big catalyst for renewals until you started running your tournament. And then you took that all off our plate. And I was like, yeah, you want it back? And he just started laughing.
well, it was such an administrative headache for TDs to like have to deal with memberships and extra monies
Well, yeah,
and
and then you're taking on pro if you're taking on pro numbers, then it's $75 or something at this point too. So you got 10 of them. There's $750 that you got in your pool of money. You're like, well, look, we got all this money, we can pay it out. And then you're like, oh shit, we just paid that out of our pocket, when it's time to pay
PDJ
the
is going to get its
PDGA.
due.
I was really
So,
glad when they went to doing it electronically,
hmm,
and they took it off my plate that way. It made it real easy, and it's like, look, just do it like this, and it was definitely a pain.
yeah, I mean, back in the day, I remember no one pre-registered. So
Oh
morning
yeah, there'd be a
of,
line Saturday
you'll have,
morning.
and everybody wants to talk to you for like 10 minutes. They want to catch up with you. You're like, can't you see line? Get moving,
Beat it,
Tibor. Less with the yapping and more with the zapping. Let's go.
Ivor.
Sorry to call you out, teams. You know what I'm saying. Um, so
Mm,
yeah, but I was a real huge PDJ booster for a long time. And not that I'm not, I still, I think they've done an amazing job. And especially with the archive, it's great to be able to look at the records. But in 2004, that's when Mueller had the idea of like, we were starting to get a little frustrated that all of the PDGA extra monies that was collected at tournaments, like if people weren't members, they had to pay the non-current member $5 or whatever it was. That was all going
yeah,
to the States and it wasn't being kept in Canada. And so we were like, and me specifically, I remember the Michigan Disc Golf Organization. They used to have a statewide tour that was non-sanctioned, but it was like focus on grassroots development and statewide development. I thought that was like a really, not everything needs to be sanctioned. It doesn't have to be above the boards as long as disc golf, like something's happening to move the whole thing forward. And so Mueller and I, it was Mueller and I, it was his idea really to start the Ontario Disc Tour, the OD Tour, and let me just. Oh, I don't. I gotta find that again. But I was gonna show the very first OD tour stamp. Um, we started that. So remember the strike, the hockey strike,
which one?
the 1990, the 2004, or the
Yeah,
lockout. So the owners locked the players out, and we didn't have hockey for that whole season, and we had nothing else to do. And that was the year that Mueller moved the table hockey from his place down to the studio. And so we were just getting hammered playing table hockey all the time. And just ideas started to flow. And he's like, okay. And I remember like it was, late night one night, and he's hammered. He's like, all right, what if we start this tour? And we go from here and here and here to here. And we did that. We did the first year we did 7 events, six plus a finale. I know for sure appreciate us coming to their town to run a tournament in their town, but everybody else were really cool with it, and it was a really interesting idea to like offer something where it was maybe a little bit more affordable, a little bit cheaper, but also at the same time a little more skewed towards we're gonna have a little bit of a good time, but it's not PDGA, so you don't have to worry about mind altering or mood altering substances. Or one of the little twists that we brought in with the OD tour was the water rule, where if you throw it in the water, you want to go in there and play it, go ahead, it's not OB. And as we've already talked to Sprague about that, that came into effect in that 2006 tournament. and it probably had a, bit of an impact.
Probably.
Okay, so I'm just gonna, where is that? Here it is. This was the first ever underwhelming. Look at this. I had like 2 weeks to put this together and I didn't know what I was doing. And literally, I probably shouldn't say this on a recorded open line, but this logo right here, I stole from, oh, what's that DJ crew now? Now I can't even think of it, but they'll know who they are. But I threw that together and that was our first disc and it was on a Z Buzz, Crystal Z Buzz.
Nice.
And so our big thing was we wanted to give out a disc and a mini at each event. And that first year we brought, I got a tow ball put onto the back of our truck it was an SUV. And so we would rent a little U-Haul trailer and we would bring the hockey table and we would bring a barbecue and we would just set up a little party, the whole amenities. It's way ahead of its time. We hardly got anybody coming, but we met some great friends along the way. Juicy J was one of our early adherents. Neo was one of our early players. Lots of great people.
Right on, man.
Let me share this one too. This is a good one. I don't know if we can.
So what were the events?
So we did. I don't know if you can see that. This was at Screaming Heads. You can just see a little Screaming Head over my shoulder.
Yeah, I remember going to that place with you guys,
And
checking
there's
it out that time. There's Neo.
Barely tell her, and this is Leona right there. We moved around a lot. We did that first year. We did Brawny, Brampton, Camp Fortune. That's where we introduced the tag system. We did 300 tags. The first 100 were gold, the second 100 were silver, and then the third 100 were bronze. And
I think I still got one of those somewhere in an old golf
Centennial
bag.
Park. We did the island, we did St. Thomas, and then we did a mystery finale at this place that we just found, a farmer's lot, and we set up a course. I don't know how we did it. It was just Kelly and I doing it. We're out there with whippersnappers and just like hand powered stuff for the amount of effort sometimes that you go into putting stuff together, right?
Oh man.
But it was an interesting, it was a great, we did 9 years on the OD tour and we did a lot of different great places, a lot of great venues. Twirly's place, the Shire was one of the more fun ones. Distock was definitely, obviously, Screaming Heads. Those were just great to be able to camp on site and party. And I would bring up my DJ equipment. We would have a party around the.
And this is all like where the freestyle part of it comes into effect as well. With all the, yeah. I didn't get to play. I guess maybe where the South River. Well, I didn't never make it when the South River events were going on. It was just MACEMAN doubles when we went up there. So yeah, I guess I didn't make it to any of these. I do remember. I still got pictures of Dushan at the front gate at Screaming Heads, and maybe you as well. I got pictures of all of us from going out there that first time and checking that place out. And holy cow, the mosquitoes were big, man. I mean, like,
there's the original two that started the OD tour. Right
there. Look at that old vinyl factory hat too.
Old vinyl factory hat there. That's 2005 at Centennial Park.
Old school.
And let me just, where's the other one here? Oh, not far now.
That was the original Mr. B.
That was the original Mr. B, and there's Dushan. There's the what we, a little tribute to him. He was our man up in South River, and
you don't even know.
You don't even know.
You just don't even know how cool that guy is, man.
So I was part of the tour kind of intensely for a couple of years, and not that I was a player at all by any means. Never. I don't think I ever cashed at any PJ event ever. But living the life, traveling the tour, being the personality, enjoying the company with the players, the camaraderie, and also really boosting for the PDGA. And like I said, I was the guy who entered the data, so I would remember people's PDGA numbers. I would meet you and I go, "Oh, Brian May, 7477. Yeah, I know you." And, to the point where some people were freaked out by that. Like, what are you, some kind of idiot savant, Rain Man kind of guy? But when we
Yeah,
made the decision to,
249.
when we made the decision to like just focus on the Ontario side, on the growth on that, I don't, I mean, I know I missed a lot on the tour, obviously, but it's all about living the life, being in the disc sport community and spreading the love and the light. And if I do it kind of under our little rock out here, or you do it on a national stage, it's still being done, right?
Yeah, well, but the thing you're discounting from this whole story is that while that was all going on, you were happily married, and you still are. And so, like, you did all this, you did all that, and you maintained your relationship with your wife and didn't have her ready to send you out of the house. Well, maybe you did, but somehow you managed to stop her from doing it. And you know, that's another thing to consider. And that's, at that time, that was the time, that was when you were supposed to be doing that. I mean, in terms of going to pulling back and then staying in Ontario. And man, 9 events is a lot of events. I mean, that's just leaving like November, December, and January out, right? If you just did it once a month. And I mean, obviously you weren't doing it once a month, but
The first year we did, and it was fairly steady for sure. But yeah, no, I mean, again, it's just all contributing to the story of disc golf in big or small ways. It doesn't matter. We're all contributing with our little efforts. And at the time, I felt like we were giving the big stiff arm to the PDGA, but not really. They're doing their thing and they're promoting the sport, and
yeah, they
doing our
they
thing.
didn't slow down adding numbers just because of what you were doing. And and you I'm sure that people eventually, there were some people that were very competitive that came out of your group, and there were some people that just wanted to continue on with the party events. And that's one of the things. I never quite got all the way to doing that. Um, Although I did run some unsanctioned events. I've run the two of the Zebos Opens were unsanctioned. I mean, that's how I was just barely hanging on. I didn't want to let that go. And I didn't want to let go of the USTGC, but there was a couple of years in there where I was really bitter and really grumpy. Um, and like I'm very fortunate that none of that, I don't have any of that bitterness or grumpiness anymore. I mean, it all went away, and it's all been such a good time. And getting
Yeah.
back, and even like going to Flagstaff this year and seeing a bunch of people that I hadn't seen in a long time, and it was just awesome. It's such a good time.
Well, I know there's going to be a whole new field of people, but I'm hoping there's going to be a similar kind of microcosmic experience for me like that at the USDGC this year.
Oh yeah, dude,
One or
there's
two
gonna be
people
a
I haven't
whole
seen
lot
in
of
a long
people
time.
that have been looking forward to crossing paths with you again, but there's also going to be a whole bunch of new friends out there too. So
Yeah. Well,
without a doubt.
that's one of the things that when I wrote Hal's boast, I said something about either everybody is a friend or someone or a friend he hasn't met yet, and that's kind of what most of disc golfers are to each other. We just either we're friends or we just haven't met yet. That's it.
Yeah, yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt. So tell me, let's carry on with your story, and tell everybody what you're up to now. Actually, wait a minute. Tell everybody what you did. Well, tell everybody about, like, you moved up to Montreal for a little bit.
Yeah.
And so let's talk a little bit about that.
So we moved to Montreal in June of 2008. But at the same time, I was still running PDJ or OD Tour events. So I'm living in Montreal, and we finished at the 08 season, and then we did the entire 09 season. And then we gave our vehicle back. We was just a lease under certain conditions. So I didn't have a car anymore. Sometimes I would rent vehicles, but other times I would take the train from Montreal to Ottawa, jump in the car with either Adam Krupe or Sparrow or Twirly, and then go from there to the tournament. So, like running tournaments with just a backpack, I mean, you're used to like a U-Haul filled with stuff, right?
Right.
I would just have my little notebook and what I needed, my a sleeping bag and pillows and clothes, and those for the weekend. um, but it was kind of an interesting, strange experience. It was kind of fun at the same time, but I didn't really think anything of it. We just kept it going. So I moved to Montreal, like I said, in '08, and we did half of '08, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. So I did 5.5 years running tournaments, the OD tournaments from Montreal, which was, when I think back on it, pretty kind of an amazing over compensation of logistical problems. Um, but while I was in Montreal, we thought we were going to move there. We thought that like that was going to be kind of maybe where we were going to go. That's why we moved there in the first place. And I really tried to support the local Montreal scene, the local Quebec scene. They had already been started before I went there, so I had nothing to do with the foundation of them. Whatever mistakes they made were probably as a result of my duress or influence. But I kind of, in the same way that I had the hands off relationship between myself, the OD tour, the PDGA was like that between myself and the ADGM, the Montreal Disc Golf Association. They always, in French, they do it all backwards. So Association Disc Golf de Montréal. Um, I tried to help. I tried to grow the sport there. I tried to do what I could, but there's a separate language barrier, and there were weird times where I would say, you know what, listen, you're doing league. In my experience, and from what I know about what's going around North America, doubles is a really great way to do leagues. It's a great way to get people together, just like mix up the talent pool. People are going to meet each other that they might not normally play with. And I would say that, and they'd be like, oh yeah, okay, that's a good idea. Thanks, Paul. But then my bizarro B in Montreal, this guy Pat, he would say, "Hey, why don't we try doubles?" And they'd be like, "Oh my God, did you just think of this? Is this you? You're a Vesuvius of inspiration and originality. Wow, I can't believe. Did you really say that? Doubles? Wow, we should be quoting this guy." And I'm like, I, I don't want to take the glory of thing, but I just said that like literally 10 days ago. So I don't think I left a deep impression in Montreal. Maybe with some of the rebels over on Ile Charon, they might have kind of. I know I bonded with a bunch of those guys, but an ellipsis between words in the text, like this file not found or footage missing kind of thing.
Right.
But it was a great time living in Montreal. It was a real challenge because we only had one. When I first got there, there was only one golf course in the ground. It was a 12-hole course. It was a real short little course. It was way at the southwest side of the city, very far away. And but there was guys on the east side of town that were playing at this huge, beautiful, what used to be a golf course that got expropriated with the whole Olympic lands back in '67,
Oh,
and
okay.
they turned it into a park. They
67.
Yeah,
So they
and
gathered that land up for the 76 Olympics starting in 67.
yeah, because '67 was when they did Expo, and so they put into motion some long-term plans that included a lot of
Oh, so that's where the name for the baseball team came from then, huh?
yeah, totally. Yeah, Les Expos. And we used to play at this like
Was that a World's
beautiful,
Fair or something or what?
yeah, yeah,
Oh, sweet.
yeah. And that's where I'm pretty sure if I remember, that's where they got the Montreal subway system up and going in time for that World's Fair.
Wow. Yeah, that Olympics, that was the first one I ever really remember.
Okay.
76, I was 10. I remember watching a lot of different things from that Olympics, and like after that I always watch as much Olympics as I can. I mean, there's times where you don't have time and you don't hardly see any of it, but like I really try to make sure that that I get as much of that in as I can. And like there's one year I remember where I got home just like literally in time to watch the Sydney games. And I pretty much laid on my couch for everything that was on TV. Like I was home for like 3 weeks, and the first 2 weeks of it were the Sydney games. And the I Man, I just watched it all, and that was that was one time I remember, kind of like women's soccer, kind of like I'm not hooked on soccer, but women's soccer definitely got my attention in that Olympics because it really, that was the first time I really watched it extensively. But it's really not a slow game. Like the pace, it's very similar to the men's game. You know, I
Yeah,
mean, it's a little bit slower, but man, they're fast and
yeah,
they're moving all the time. And it's not like, you know, I mean, like I describe it like the women's college basketball is the same way. And I haven't really watched any pro women's basketball, but I'm kind of tempted to, just because you know, like we watched the women's Final Four this last year, and it was a great game. I mean, you didn't know who was going to win until like final seconds almost, you know, I mean, not literally, but like within the last 90 seconds, you know, that was when it was kind of determined. And both of those games, it's like when I grew up in high school, like you didn't go to, I mean, they always had the girls' games before the boys' games on Friday night in basketball, you know, and stuff.
mm,
And, you know, you were only going to those games if you were forced to because the band was playing, or if your girlfriend was playing the game, or if you had a sister in the game or something like that. You know, I mean, it was a slow, clunky game, you know, I mean, it's not like that anymore. And,
yeah,
you know, I mean, there was a girl in the women's Final Four that was shooting threes from like Steph Curry range. Like if
yeah,
you weren't Gardner, she was pulling up. If she was on the basket side of the half court, there was a couple times she took shots from the sticker, you know, at center court. Like she wasn't at center court, but the sticker, you know, it comes out and like it's nowhere near the 3-point line. It's like 8 feet beyond it or more, you know, and then she's just dunking them like it's no big deal. And you know, back when I went to high school, girls were having trouble hitting free throws. You know what I mean? I mean, it's not necessarily true, but the game's way different. So
I don't know how we got onto women's basketball, but there you go.
hockey,
Uh,
Olympics. No, it wasn't hockey, it was Olympics.
anyways, I moved back from Montreal, and since then I've been a crossing guard, which I'm gonna have to wake up early for tomorrow. So we're gonna have to start to reel this up.
Hey, well, Adam
Um,
Hazel and Jeff Davis just stopped by. We can't quit.
President Jefferson Davis, how you doing, buddy? And Adam Hazel, nice. Adam's doing amazing work, by the way. You just another thing where you asked me what I'm doing, and this is really relevant, especially with Adam Hazel coming on. He was the TD for this year for the Toronto Line Maple Leaf. This was my 8th year being the host with the most roasts and monster ceremonies for the tournament. It's changed a little bit this year, but for the last 7 years, it was always a tea time tournament, 3 days, one round a day, and I would be the guy to introduce you, and I would take the opportunity. The first day was the good boast, and I would give you a nice little something, talk about you're on a roll or what you did last year, whatever. The second day was the bad, and the third day was the ugly, and you're getting ripped on the third day, and sometimes it was
I
just
answered that, Jeff. Go
straight
ahead.
up mean. It was mean. You ask Simon Simon Newman how mean it could be. Oh, I won't even read some of the roasts from this year. But that's what I've been doing. That's my main involvement with any. That's the closest I've gotten to a PDGA tournament, was being the official roaster.
Yeah, and
It's
that
a,
just took place this past weekend.
it's a special event over on the Toronto Island.
Yeah, it was awesome. Schick stopped by earlier, and I saw him. He posted, and he won. Correct?
He's the champ. Yep.
Yeah, he's tough to beat. Doesn't matter how old he is. That's awesome. But yeah, I saw his post, and I was just like going, man,
Okay, so listen,
I
just a
love
quick
it.
little inside. Kim's probably gonna hate me for saying this, but after Schick won, and then he left because he's got a long drive to Columbus. It's about 6 hours at least, maybe eight
Yeah, it's a
hours.
ways, dude.
So Kim was talking with his boys. He's an island boy, Kimmer, and he's got
Does he
his
still live on the island?
yeah. He's got a house. He's built a house. He's in the middle of actually building his house. It's supposed to be a dream house. It's supposed to be awesome. But I mean, he grew up on the island. He's got his boys that are from the island. And so they knew he was playing, and they came over after the end of the tournament, and they're just sitting around. And Kim is holding court because he is a court holder. And
Woody Gibbler.
he must have said at least 3 times in my hearing, I can't believe that fucker won. He can't even throw further than 350 feet. But I mean, like, he didn't make a mistake, but it's the most boring thing you've ever seen. And I was just chuckling to
The
myself.
most boring ass whooping you ever taken.
You're right. But I mean, come on, give him some due credit. Schick won back-to-back U.S. Masters. Like, you don't win that by chance, right? He's like a multiple,
Yeah.
that's I think his sixth time winning the Toronto Island tournament too. Which,
Oh, I
by
was
the
thinking,
way, my first ever tournament, PDJ tournament that I ran in 1998, Schick won. He was the first winner of my first ever tournament.
there you go. There you go.
So good feelings with
Yeah,
him.
I remember
Definitely.
him and his wife up there a lot of the times when I was up there for sure. Like they were always regular.
Yeah, that's just a beautiful. I mean, again, it goes back to the community. It goes back to you make the effort to go travel someplace and play in a tournament. People are gonna respect that and reward you with the esteem. They're gonna recognize you at the next time they see you and maybe offer you a place in their place. That's how it used to be. I remember the first time, 96, I remember playing Pleasure Island down in Houston. Like the Bear, no, what was it? Barry's Treasure. That's the permanent course that they
Oh
have
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. Right.
The
Very
Olympian
treasure.
course. And some local guy who lives in the area rolled up to play his local course, just happened to be at night or whatever, close to the twilight. And there's some dude from Canada playing down here in my little rinky dink. So we played a round together. And at the end of the round, he's like, "Where are you staying?" I didn't have a place to stay at the moment. And he's like, "Yeah, come stay at my place. My mom's not home. You can sleep on her couch." And normally, like if I knew about disc golf, I knew about the culture, I was like, "Yeah, hell yeah, dude, I'm coming to your place." But at that time, I didn't know that never happened
You
to me.
didn't
So I'm
know the
like,
couch surfing mentality yet.
who's this? Is he propositioning me? Is he coming on to me? Like, what is this? I want to stay at his mom's place. What is gonna happen? They're gonna bring out the videotape here? I don't know.
Yeah, you're gonna get Texas Chainsaw Massacred.
I don't know. So I sometimes think about that moment, but a lot of other times, the road less traveled or the door number two, people say, "Hey, why don't you stay over here?" You're like, "Yeah, okay," and you do, and
Man,
it's like one of the turning points.
dude, I can't tell you how many times that happened for me, and those out of those, so 10 years from basically from age 30 to age 40, I I travel at least 6 months of the year, all 10 of those years. And I didn't use a hotel room 5% of that time, I guarantee you.
Yeah,
And like so many people, like Matt Fitzwater's a great friend of mine. I believe he lives in northern New York now, but he used to live in Wisconsin. And we'd played doubles at Dretzka. I think or else maybe it was just a practice round. I might have only just been played a practice round with him. And one of the guys, Gino, one of the local guys there, and he said at the end, we were talking in the parking lot, and he goes, "Hey, where are you staying tonight?" And I was like, I hadn't even figured that out yet. I was like, I might be staying with Joe. Uncle Joe who the guy who ran the tournaments up there, Joe Winchell. He said, if you need a place to stay, I got some floor space for you. And I was kind of hoping that it might be a little better than floor space, but and then Matt offered, and then I stayed with Matt every time I came back for probably, you know, 5 years maybe or more. And there was another time where on the 4th of July, I didn't have anything better to do. And I was close. I think it was in Illinois. And he goes, "Just come on over, man. Just stay at our house for the weekend," and was friends with his kids and all that, you know what I mean? And
oh,
it was like that. It was like that most places, once I found a place to stay. And
yeah,
the thing that's really amazing is I'm learning that the glass community is like that too. Once
mm,
you stayed at somebody's house and they expect you the next time, and if you're not taking advantage of that, you're missing out. And there's no reason to buy a hotel room when somebody's going to give you a room at their house. I mean,
yeah,
and that's like kind of like the whole, I've really embraced the whole Airbnb thing too, because it's, with the exception of Rock Hill and USDGC and staying at the tournament hotel there, like there's like we're gonna go out and play we're gonna go out and play short holes every night, in the dark and off the end of unless they've built something in that lot outside of the hotel. But there's always like 5 baskets, and like every night all of us got together, like all the people staying at the hotel, not all of them, but like all the staff members, like Sean Wynn and a bunch of people that you're going to meet here in a couple of weeks. And it's a little different, but like Airbnbs, the vibes there is so cool. And like, I mean, like, for example, we had we had that Airbnb in Bend this year, and I had Nate and Val, Sharon, and Cameron Roundhorse over for dinner. You know, and we hung out all night long, like
What'd you make them?
wings, and I don't remember what else we had. I was too busy talking to Nate because I hadn't seen him in like 5 or 6 years. I didn't do any cooking. Luckily for me, but, you know, it's awesome. Two of my buddies go on vacation with me, and then at one point they go, "Wow, we're just going on Brian's disc golf vacation while we're, you know, going skiing and snowboarding and stuff too." And I was like, "Well, I mean, you don't have to go with me, but you know, I got a car, I'm going. You know, if you guys want to join me, come on." So we got to do the bevel putt night, but it was just awesome. You know, like being able to do that, such a great effect on the trip itself. You know.
Well, I hope that clears up every question that anybody out there in Toonland might
Yeah,
have
we
for
didn't cover
either of us.
everything.
Especially for me, I'm done answering questions about myself. I'm just gonna be making fun
Done
of
answering
everybody
questions,
else.
ladies and gentlemen.
But it's been sorry that we couldn't have Sam Ferns on for the show tonight, but we're looking hopefully to get him on to
Next
rearrange
week, hopefully.
soon. Has he got back to you about that?
Yeah, I mean, you need to talk about that a little bit more, and then we'll figure it out from there. Hey, so
But,
we can't listen, we got to tell that you know, you mentioned the Seville court story. There's Seville court when I lived over there by veterans, and we got to tell that story about so I move out. So like, all right, so here's the story. I've got this great friend named Dean Burton, and I met Dean Burton playing disc golf and shooting pool and drinking beer. And Hal just stopped by too, by the way. And we decide that we're going to get a place together. You know, he's got an apartment. We really clicked on the golf course at first, but we solidified our friendship going and shooting pool and drinking too much, and then ended up at one or the other's houses, you know, after hours and just bullshitting and talking about this. And then we go golfing the next day. And I mean, we just got to be really great friends. And then we moved into this place that was, even if you got stuck at the light, you could still get to the back parking lot at Veterans in 2 minutes. And
beautiful.
It was awesome. It was a 3-bedroom townhome, 2-story place.
Yeah.
And it was in a neighborhood of townhomes. Like literally, if you know Veterans and you're going north, you hit the light and you cross Arkansas, the first street on the right, we were 2 blocks in. It was amazing. And I thought it was awesome. I figured I was going to live there a really, really long time. And then I went out of town to a couple tournaments that summer. And while I was gone, Dean went to his 10-year high school reunion and got reacquainted with the lady that became his girlfriend and then became his baby's mama and his wife by the time Thanksgiving hit. So there was the 3 of us, and they were expecting. You come to town, we go play Waco. Or what? No, we moved out and then we went to Waco.
Yeah.
Right. So you come to town.
But wait, before Waco, we were at Peoria.
No, I didn't go to Peoria. You came and met up with me.
Okay.
Yeah, you went to Peoria solo, and then you came down.
So that was like all big part of like a super tour kind of tour. When Peoria was a super tour, the next weekend was Waco, and then we went back up to Kansas City, and then it was Minneapolis, and then Lansing.
Yes, exactly.
It was a beautiful little kind of, you know, loop. So,
and it was like one of the smartest moves I've ever made in my life. I paid 2 men in a truck to bring all my stuff in. They didn't have to unpack it, but they brought it all up. They brought it all out of the other place, brought it all up the stairs. And like people ask me, "Hey, you want to help me move?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, here's the deal. Call 2 men in a truck and get them to come on over and go ahead and pay them to do all that shit for you. You will not regret it. Here's the best help I can give you moving."
The reason why we're telling this story is because it wasn't just I was physically lifting things from one place to another in like June, early June.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. The Stars were in the playoffs.
Yeah.
It was 98. Stars were in the playoffs, Western Conference Final.
Western Conference Finals.
And so the day
we're moving, and I'm like, how do people live? What do you remember what I said?
Here's the quote. He's like this, "Holy fucking jeez, guy, how do you live in this?" And he's just wiping sweat off his face with both shoulders. And yeah, and we weren't even having to work really. I mean, we were moving boxes, like we were kind of stacking boxes, and guys were picking them up and
I
taking
was
them out.
like lifted a little
And
thing like that.
I mean, seriously, some of the best money I ever spent. And especially coming over here because and I do still live here, but they brought it all upstairs, brought it inside, and we crashed over here. And then we jumped out of a little white Nissan pickup that I brought from the president, Jefferson Davis. And we're cruising down Green Oaks. If you know what Arlington, we're cruising down Green Oaks on the west side, heading back towards Veterans. And Angry Tom Harnachek calls up and goes, "Hey man, you know anybody that wants to go to that Stars game tonight? I'm not gonna make it. I'm sick as a dog, blah, 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 blah. My allergies are killing me." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure I do. B, you wanna go to the hockey game tonight?" And he goes, "Playoffs? Are you kidding me?" "Yes." And so I was like, yeah, we got it. And I go, "You know what this means, don't you?" And he goes, "What's that?" And I go, "It's gonna be an epic game. You always miss the epic games. I'll tell you about it tomorrow. I hope you get to feeling better." And I hung up my Motorola flip phone.
Like,
And B was like going, "Yes, dude, I'm going to a playoff game," And so
now, just to put it in perspective, okay, so this is 98. So this Detroit was already the Stanley Cup champs. They're defending champs, and they're like clearly the #1 seed. But Dallas is like really surging. They're really
on the verge,
They're like 1 year away from winning their own Stanley Cup. So,
totally on the verge.
and the Leafs, as much of a power fruit-filled donut as they were in the East, had nothing on
Fruit-filled
that.
donut.
Nothing on that. So for
Okay.
me, I never get to go to playoff games, especially high-powered playoff games in Toronto. I get to go to
Significant game 5 of the Western Conference Final, to be
Western Conference
exact.
Finals. Get out of here. It was
Game 5. Okay, so background information. I'm heavily involved in the entertainment business. I'm a member of the Stagehands Union at the time, so I'm doing shows at our arena, Reunion Arena. I'm doing lighting work, and I'm like really dipping my toe into like going out of town for 3 weekends in a row and playing 3 tournaments, and then coming home and working for a while, and and just in and out of town. I got laid off the last time I punched the clock was August of '93. I just had a 30-year reunion, or 30-year anniversary with that. So the night before the game, here's some more of the brilliance. I did a load in. I had 2 men in a truck come and move, and then I went and did the load out for the Campbell's Champions on Ice, Campbell Soup Champions on Ice. And while we're doing that load in, we've got all the docks blocked, and this guy named John Morton, who still works for the Red Wings, was bringing all their hockey gear into the building to set up the dressing room and everything. Well, he couldn't get in because we had all the doors blocked. And so he's politely sitting there, but I figured out that he worked for the Red Wings. And so I started talking shit. Not like let's fight talking shit, just like, going, "Hey dude," like at one point I did tell him, I go, "Hey, listen, dude, yeah, you might work for the Red Wings and everything, and you guys might end up winning this series, but you're in our house now, and you better not talk any of that shit." And and like all my stagehand brothers and sisters were backing me up and shit and laughing at me. And so anyways, he talks a little shit, then we move the truck, he gets his gear in, he goes on about his business. And then fast forward, next night, started playing, game's tied. Was it overtime or was it just before overtime? I think it was before overtime, right? Jamie Langenbrunner scooting down the middle of the ice.
No. The Stars were down a goal, and Carbonneau, last minute, engineers the game tying goal to like send it to overtime, because like up to that point they were getting outplayed. And so, like Carbo, we could see it. It was at our particular where we were sitting.
We were on the end.
And we could see Carbo down on that side. Like that's where they scored the goal in our end. And we could see, oh my God, you could feel like sometimes.
And then it went to overtime after that. Okay, and so just for some more background information, if you're following along as a fan at home, this was the year when Brian Marchment, whose son now plays for the Stars, but he played for the San Jose Sharks, and he took out Neuendijk and Mike Modano in the same playoff series with questionably, definitely dirty fucking hits. And so we were hobbled. We weren't like, honestly, it was all we could do to get to game 5. And then Carbonneau manufactures that goal and we go to overtime in game 5, and Lang and Bruner scooting at later on, intermission, full period hockey for overtime, not this 3-on-3 5-minute period or anything like that, like they got now. And Lang and Bruner skating through the center in the center ice, and he just goes to dump it and was going to go for a change. And we were looking over his shoulder, and this puck went like on an Anheuser line and skipped, and it went around Osgood, and Osgood stuck his stick out to try to knock it down, and he knocked it down into the goal.
Yeah.
And like, it's one of the top 3 Stars moments of my whole entire time being a Stars fan since '94, almost 30 years, that I will never forget that game. That was, and Paul was there, so that was, it was super,
awesome.
super stellar. And so,
like you say, we could see along that plane of ice.
We were looking right over his shoulder. We had the perfect view. Like, most people didn't realize it, that the Osgood made contact. Like, they just thought he stuck his stick out, and that's just kind of how it went. No, he helped it. It might have been close, but he definitely helped it along.
But I mean, it was one of those knuckleball shots that just bounced off the ice in a weird way. And, you can blame the quality of the ice at that point or whatever. But Langenbrunner was just, remember how much of a rookie he was? How much of like,
zit face, baby face, like, oh yeah,
put a sentence together after, because they interviewed him after he won, and he was like, oh,
yeah, yeah, for sure, it was crazy. And so then here's the extra. I'm sure I've told you the story before, but here's the topper to that. About 2, so the Stars win that game, go to game 6 in Detroit, and Detroit just hands us our ass, and it's over. And then they go on and play the Capitals and sweep the Capitals. Like it wasn't even hard. It was easy. And so, like, literally 2 weeks later, I'm doing Benny Hinn in Detroit. And this is one of those times when I went and played in the Lansing, in the Capital City Renegades afterwards. And I think maybe the Great Lakes Open or something else. But I jumped in with you and Moots and did this, but I first worked, and then Mark Ellis picked me up and brought me to Lansing. And then I hung with you guys for like 2 weekends. And when I'm doing that gig at Joe Louis Arena, I start noticing guys that don't belong. Like, when you're doing a load in and stuff, there's not a lot of people in the room. We have the room, we own the building as a renter, obviously, but I start noticing these guys that don't belong. And then I like recognized a couple of them as Red Wings players. And I told one of my guys that I was working with, one of my buddies, that he's a big Stars fan too. And I go, dude, check this shit out. I'm not bullshitting. I think these are a couple of these Russians from the Red Wings. And we started noticing. And then I went to the bathroom and I came back in this hallway that comes down to in that building, there was a hallway to the visitors bench and a hallway to the Red Wings bench. So I'm walking down the Red Wings hallway, and who pops out of the door? John Wharton, the equipment manager that I had met, the night before game 5, excuse me. And he's like, dude, what are you doing here? And I was like, I'm working. This is what I do. This is my regular gig. I go, what's up? And he goes, oh, we're cleaning out lockers. And I was like, oh, I thought those guys were players. And he goes, yeah, blah, blah, blah. He talks about it. And I go, hey, man, congratulations. But listen, I got to ask you a question. And he goes, what's that? And I go, how the hell did you guys just sweep the Caps like that? And he goes, listen, everybody in the league knew that the cup was coming through Dallas in one form or fashion. And he said, when Marchment took Madonna and Neuendijk out on you guys the series before us, we knew we were going to get through you. We just didn't know how hard it was going to be. Because, I mean, we had a lot of tough players, like Craig Ludwig, among others, like the old hip check, like one of Darian Hatcher. But I mean, Craig Ludwig's hip checks are legendary. The ass over tea kettle thing, like he'd just line you up and come across the blue line and meet you at the boards, and you were going ass over tea kettle, and he was going the other way with the puck and, doing a breakout or whatever. And so I asked him that. And then I don't know if you don't know about Detroit, there's a little area called Greektown that's like the entertainment district in downtown. I don't know what it's like now, but back then it was still hopping. And I go, okay, one more thing I got to ask you about. And he goes, what's that? And I go, how about that shot from Greektown in game 5 on Osgood from Langenbrunner? He's like, we're not talking about that, dude. We are not talking about that. And You know, so it's like every now and then you see the Red Wings play, the dude's still working there. He's got less hair, but and I even
Yeah.
heard one time where they mentioned him on they mentioned him, you know, on the broadcast. And I was like, I know John Morton. I met him a long time ago. So hey, Scott Martin stopped by. You about caught the
Nice.
tail end of it, Scott, but we're definitely going to want you on the show. So PM me your phone number.
Scott Martin is another Toronto Island Open champion. Hey, Scotty.
Another
Hi,
guy
guy.
that can, I don't know anybody that can bend a rock on a reverse that like he can,
Oh,
being a lefty.
yeah. All right. I need to cut this short because I have to wake up early in the morning and keep those kids safe.
Right on, dude. Well, I put it down as 2 hours and we went 2:16. So, and we still got story to tell. So you
We
never
got
know.
more stories.
We'll let
Always
a
more
couple more out
stories.
of the bag eventually.
You
Yeah.
know, as we talk to our guests through the years, you know, we do details go, of course, but how are you? Hopefully, we did answer a few questions and scratch a few curiosity itches. But in the meantime, we are back on Wednesday, next Wednesday, a week from now, the 13th. If not before with Sam Ferens, but next Wednesday for sure with Crazy John Brooks back at it. And we're really excited about that show. We got a lot to talk about with Crazy. Most likely not going to get through it all as we do. We might have to do a two-parter
Well,
with Crazy.
and we're also gonna actually you and I haven't had a chance to talk about this, but we are you and I are gonna have to get together and do a little bit of a commercial and do an update because we got really, really, really big things on the horizon, including on September 20th, I'm gonna be in Burlington,
Mm,
North Carolina to interview the pioneer women of disc golf.
yeah.
Tita Ugaldi invited me to come and be a part of this, and it's really grown since then as well. But it's like an incredible honor. 7 ladies that have 3-digit, 2-digit, or 1-digit PDJ numbers, and I'm gonna get a story from each one of them, and then hopefully queue up a full interview in the future, you know, next year with them.
So just to take a second and talk about those ladies. Marie Murphy Del Rose, PDGN number 15.
Yeah,
Susie Horn, PDG number 68.
yep,
Cheryl Payne Newland, PDG number 76. Tita, aforementioned Tita Ugalde, PDJ number 83. Patty Kunkel, PDJ number 283. Michelle Marini, PDJ number 903, and Tammy Pelicane, PDJ number 970. That's the Pioneer Ladies panel, the 7 of them, excuse me. So I just want to make sure
yeah.
to mention their names before.
Appreciate that. Thanks for backing me up with that because that's like well, and not to mention the fact that we got Crazy John Brooks next week. We got Steve Valencia the week after that. We're gonna pick back up with Harold at some point. The date is definitely gonna change, and there may be something really huge coming down the pike with that. And then here's one more thing that is really, I just got the word on this today, and this is going to be badass. If you ever watched us do or listen to me do the radio show back in the early days of USDGC, we're going to do this show from the stage in a similar fashion, 3 or 4 hours a day, all 4 days at the USDGC. We will have interviews with Captain Snap, Mike Conger, with George Sappenfield, Jay and Des, Schwebby, Double G, and like this. So these won't necessarily be like our full 90-minute to 3-hour interviews. They will be scaled back to some degree, but there will also there's going to be some roundtable hanging out, sitting around, talking about a lot of stuff disc golf. We will not be doing commentary on what's going on, but we will be commenting from time to time. Like we will be watching, we will be paying attention. There will be video going on at the same time that we're going on. And if something's amazing that just happened on the course, then we're going to talk about it. So this is going to be something that you want to do while you're watching USDGC 2. You can turn us up or turn us down. And, you know, we're going to be picking people randomly out of the crowd and doing the 20 questions with them. And then there will be other people where we're going to sit down and get them to tell us a nice big story. Tita's going to be there as well. So we may get into more detail with her at some point as well. And we got some things in our pocket that we're trying to cultivate. And man, if I'm just going to tell you again, I've said it going back to the radio days and every time in between, if you're going to be within driving distance of USDGC, you really need to be there.
Now, before we get to Rock Hill, we are going to finish our second half of the interview with Barry Schultz, and hopefully we still have this lined up. But right before the USDGC, we've got Barsby on the show.
Yeah, for
So
sure. We'll be able. We should.
We've got exciting September.
He said it sounded fun. I just got to remind him about it, and then we'll figure out where Sam fits into that mix too.
Yeah.
So lots of cool stuff on the horizon for us in the next few weeks, and then so we're gonna finalize a bunch of stuff, and then we'll put something up on our Instagram page in the next couple of days, and we'll post it again on my Facebook too. And thanks a lot, folks. We really appreciate you stopping by, and we'll talk more soon.
It's great to see everybody, and hopefully we can get that news about Sam Ferens, because that's going to be a really exciting interview. He's a great guy.
Right on. All right, folks. Again, thank you, Paul. Thank you, and everybody that stopped by. So Scott Martin, Alan Jansen, Walter Haney. What's up, Walt? Haven't seen you forever. Hal Baby, Jeff Davis, Adam Hazel, Steve Gans, Jim Oates, Zach Tucker, Tim Oates, Jim's twin, Ryan Bivalacqua, David W. Young. He was a year older than me in high school. John Gold, Billis, Greg Billis stopped by. Yeah, he and I were trading. He and I were trading texts on the thread earlier today. Brad Schick, Otto, Kent Spires, Corey Narathan. I'm sorry, Corey. I'm really good at butchering names. Keith Machen, who's a local golfer from around here. Ted Barber, Brad Sargent, Mike Rosiska, Mike McGilla, which isn't Mike Rosiska. Austin Fisher, Tim Ostin, Anthony Miller, Keith Machen again, John Finch, Jeff Burke, David Schnuckle, who, man, that guy might be a glass artist. I know of a David. I watched a couple demos of David Schnuckle back in the day. Aaron Bernardez, Ian Zubowitz, Reese Barbarino, one of my old Christmas light buddies, Kyle Wilkes, Sandy Hendel, Chris Pepperling, Leslie Brinster, Frank Ursino, Kevin Gisa, Sissy Sue Stevens, Dale Himmeline, who's becoming pretty regular, Steve Mills, Brad Bishop, and Casey Allshouse. Man, what a lineup of witnesses.
Nice. Just for the two of us.
Yeah. Like, who'd have thought it?
Well, you got the star power there. I'm just mopping up the floors over here.
Yeah, whatever, dude. Come on now.
All right. So hopefully you can join us again for more Good Times Hours down the road. We definitely, again, like I say, we're going to get the word about Sammy and the relocated show. Hopefully, we're hoping for next week at some point, but we definitely have in the back pocket, and we're definitely looking really forward to talking crazy.
Yeah, that one. That ain't going to be an hour long. I'm just going to tell you right now. You need to get that, do whatever you got to do to smooth that over with Natty, because that one's going. We're going to be swinging to the fences on that one.
Right. Well, I better cut it off short tonight if I want to be able to do a long the other night.
Is she over there listening?
I don't know where she is. I can't see.
Oh, she's watching. Damn it! I should have said that.
She's still watching. All right. Well,
hopefully she's over there laughing too.
It's been an awesome time hanging out and catching up, and also just to putting some framework on. I mean, obviously, a lot of people know who MACEMAN is, but I do sneak under the wire a lot of times, so it's good to put a little context on who I am, what I've done, and also our partnership together, where it started, and
my best Canadian friend.
Yeah, buddy, you got that right. All right, so we will talk, and until then, everybody, good times.
Thanks for chilling. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. Talk to you soon, bro.
Right on. All right, pal. Ciao.